Reveille.
Look at us now, tip to tip.
Ooh, Jesus.
Shout out to Morning Kombat.
Do you want a margarita? Yes! My God!
It's us doing what we love. It's time to bang. Oh, yeah, Monday. Can't trust that day. But we are back to bang. It's Morning Kombat, Monday, December 9th, 2024. And you've reached the best damn combat sports show of all time, period. Luke, Thomas,
Monday.
Brian Campbell, and Luke, speaking of popular music, how about Jay-Z? Seems like he's got 100 problems now, right?
Yeah, got some lawsuits going in his direction, doesn't he?
Maybe he took that Wu-Tang is for the children line too, too literally, right?
They're from different boroughs in New York. Jay-Z's from Brooklyn. Wu-Tang is from Staten.
That didn't prevent my joke from crossing over, though.
Wu-Tang's from a few different places, including Long Island. Thank you very much.
Wow,
Which members of which of these shit
Method
members?
Man. Method Man's from Westbury.
I'll walk that back. Method's pretty great.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say like you God or something. I'm like, yeah, you can keep him. How
No,
about
he
that?
still counts. That is Long Island Luke Nocita, your producer, degenerate director.
Dude, nobody will get in defense of Wu-Tang Clan more than white guys past their 30s.
Yes.
That's the number one. Like,
he's probably just barely past his 30s.
how old are you, Long Island Luke?
32.
Yeah, he's just crawling over that line. We have a fantastic MK episode for you today, not just an extensive breakdown of all things UFC 310 over the weekend from Wow. Prohatska. I meant to say, Luke, of course, Alexandre. How about that breakthrough victory once again to continue his flyweight title streak? Ian Garry making believers, but maybe Shavkat was hurt. We'll get into that. Maycee Barber live, 12:30 p.m. Eastern time, going to stop in. We'll find out when she's getting back into the cage.
That's right.
Hopefully. And also we'll look ahead. How about that UFC 312 card coming up?
Gonna be a banger?
Yeah.
Fun main event? Should it have been a different main event? That's the question.
Sorry about
you all right
that.
over there?
Yeah, I'm okay about that. Yeah, thank you. We're going to find that out, Luke. We also have what I'm calling a fantastic batch of HYSTS.
No, we have limited time. We got to get this show on the road.
Oh, we'll fit it in. We'll bang hard. You could probably like us and follow us at these here socials. And please, if you haven't subbed to this great channel, what are you waiting for? Get on board right now. Follow our socials right there and our extended YouTube channels, including the Main Card Minute for over there. By the way, did you know that Luke Nocita, co-host of the Main Card Minute, had a 7-hour marathon UFC show? Did huge traffic. Shout out to that guy. All right.
Yeah, we did good. We had a good time. Got high and won some money.
We're A+ boyfriends too, huh? The both of you.
What?
Yeah. What?
I'm saying you're not spending 7 hours. How would you justify to your wife when you're not on the road spending 7 hours with your friends smoking marijuana, watching fights without losing said wife?
Well, he was working, It's his side gig. It's his side hustle.
Is that your side hustle?
Yeah, side hustle. There you go.
Hey, honey, I'm working over here, all right? You know what I'm saying? All right, great. Luke, do you have anything else you want to say? Great weekend for you in D.C.?
No, I was tired as shit. I was ruined by the lack of sleep. I did do that gig on Friday.
LFA.
Yes, which was a little bit of a juggling act. They gave me a list, and understand, I'm not blaming anybody. You know this. In the fight game, sometimes they'll tell you, hey, Tank is 30 seconds away.
Yes.
And then they're like, right at the 5-second mark, Tank will be here in another 2 hours.
Yes.
It's just how the fight game goes. And that happened a little bit. The fight card that I had received, but who was going to be on it, didn't really match the one that was on the TV.
Did you have to vamp a lot?
It wasn't so much vamping. I just didn't know who they were.
Remember that time we were going to call 3 hours of prelim card boxing and 5 minutes before you're like, I can't do it. I'm out.
Well, my kid had a 105 temperature.
Yeah, it was a very serious situation. Yeah. I was still left on Survivor Island by myself.
You got hoard. There's no question.
I got you back, I think, about 6 months later with a similar type setup right there. But that's about it for our pre-show rambling. And don't buy our merch just yet. But hey, we got some shit to sweep up in the corner of the room entering the new year.
Yeah, we certainly do. We certainly do.
Right, let's get that.
Hope we can get a broom.
Let's get that shit smell out of here and clean it on up. All right.
Just put some Febreze on.
Yeah,
That's
we're
what I did
happy
in
to
college.
still be alive and ticking, and I hope you guys are just the same. Thank you, as always, to our people for supporting us and what we do solo and what we do together. Thank you. All right, let's get into the show. We got a busy show. It's going to be rip, rock, and roaring, and it's ready to go right now. UFC 310 over the weekend from Las Vegas, the final pay-per-view of 2024 for the world's leading MMA promotion. And in the main event in the flyweight division, we'll certainly get to what went down as Kai Asakura made his UFC debut, and the champ was the champ once more. But Luke Thomas, topic number one, supports what was the biggest storyline coming in and might be coming out. It was the number one contender fight in that co-main event, 5 rounds, welterweight division, and Shavkat Rakhmonov in the end earning the unanimous decision over Ian Garry through 5 rounds, 3 rounds to 2 on all 3 scorecards. But is it fair to say, however, despite the Rakhmonov win, that Ian Machado Garry's stock might have risen even more higher than that of the victor Rakhmonov, who secured the title shot he had already secured against Bilal Muhammad? Luke, we were talking more about Ian Garry coming out. Should that be the right topic and storyline at this moment?
Ooh. Okay. So we all watched the fight, and then I gave a reaction that I thought was pretty positive of Garry, most of which I'm not going to change on today's show. Watched the fight subsequent times. Reached out. I can say that I reached out to Justin Flores, who was the judo coach of Ronda Rousey, a guy who has specialized he has a whole system called Wall Waza. Newaza is what they call sparring in judo. Or no, that's randori. But it's a similar kind of concept. And it's all up against the wall. And I asked him to like kind of look at some footage and give me some feedback and whatnot. And then there was the admission by Daniel Cormier.
Oh, we can play that video.
That Rakhmonov may have been injured. Let's play it so we can get the context for today's conversation.
This fight tonight, because Shavkat Rakhmonov did not look like himself. Even though I learned after that he had an injury. I think he might have tore his MCL going into the fight. Granted, with a torn ligament in your knee, you're not going to look like the killer that you look like in fights prior. I got all my results.
Now, I don't know what that Russian or Cyrillic alphabet was on the screen. If there was some
Kill Whitey.
Yeah, if there was Kill Whitey on there, I apologize. I don't know what any of that stuff says. That's from his YouTube channel, from Daniel Cormier's YouTube channel. I think here's where I'm going to come down on it with a little bit of some of this information and some perspective included. To me, there is no way you can look at this performance from Ian Garry and decide that the only way he performed ably is to grade him on a curve. Some grading on a curve is now inevitable if what is true about Shavkat Rakhmonov has been revealed, namely about his MCL.
I mean, he still kept the fight. He still took the fight and signed it.
He still took it, and also, let me just make sure I didn't hear back.
And that matters.
Show. I texted Danny Rubenstein,
oh, yes,
the
great
manager.
Oklahoma wrestler, and it has a hairline that's fighting just the same, right? I love that guy.
I texted him this morning. I don't know what time zone he's in. I think he's on the Vegas time zone, about this news to see if he would tell me what's up. If he responds, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Ian Garry is a very good defensive fighter. Now, I know his stats actually speak to maybe being offensive, but I don't think that's what the tape shows when you're up against guys like Rakhmonov and Jeff Neal and some of the other ones. But he is very good defensively, BC. Great footwork. Fast.
Yes.
Makes snap decisions in certain circumstances that makes him really slippery.
Length. And he's solid. You know what I mean? He doesn't get overwhelmed.
And he fights a game where rather than us trading, I'm going to invest in the part of the game that sets up all of the trading, and I'm going to define terms in that way. And I would ask folks to look at this and say, did that fight in the end look more like a Shavkat Rakhmonov fight, or did it look more like an Ian Garry fight? It looked more, for the most part, like an Ian Garry fight. However, I'm going to say two things in response to that. All of that is true, and Gary's stock must have gone up in the minds of most people.
It's got to be the leading story coming out of this.
It's got to be. But I will say, on the offensive end, he's somewhat limited. His finishing ability relative to Rakhmonov is like not even close. Like some of the takedowns, his head is on the wrong side. Some of his submissions, his head is on the wrong side. Like there's real polish in the finishing. He just clearly hasn't gotten to yet. And I think that still holds him back to a degree. I also think this guy we talked about it. You asked, what's the relevance of having trained together to some extent?
Hi.
All the places you need to be to neutralize a guy, and maybe it stalls out a little bit there, but you're mostly safe. I think some of that played out as well. And I also think Rakhmanov's assumed injury, BC, there was opportunities where was Garry defending along the fence in a way that was legitimate and tough to deal with? No question. But there's also moments where Rakhmonov is waiting around in spots where he wouldn't have. So I think you have to raise Gary's stock at 27 years old. Dude, he is good. He is legitimately good.
He's title good. He's title ready.
And I did some of this on Saturday. I want to, now I'm thinking a little bit about it. I think at the margins, at a bare minimum, some of the burying of Rakhmonov a little premature.
That's fair. Does this give you a get out of jail free card on the idea that Rakhmonov didn't fully take advantage of the moment in the situation? You can understand it with the injury call, but I think you were right to point out that there was also periods where he just didn't seem to fill the gap, and when there was an opening there, was that a hesitation due to an injury? It's hard to know. I will say that the more often, and it didn't happen often, but the more often that Shavkat let his hands go, that he was throwing combinations. Yes, Gary's defense was blocking a lot of it, but it's not like Gary was countering and making Shavkat in a situation where he was in too much danger to stand there and throw. I think they both did not benefit from single strike offense. For a lot of it, it was too technical and too pinpoint. To be fair, I thought Shavkat won the first and second round mostly due to just landing the better strike when it was just a couple strikes each for the most part, right?
Yep.
But when you're talking about the poise that Ian Machado Gary showed, is his game perfect now and perfectly well rounded? No, but his poise, his IQ, his stubbornness in certain categories, the gas tank to go 5 rounds, and then to put you in a position where he's putting the boogeyman of the division in legitimate peril down 3-1 entering the final round. Didn't get the submission, didn't get it done.
And a good 4th round, by the way, for Rakhmonov.
Absolutely, where Rakhmonov felt the momentum turning and stuffed it out by finally securing the fake with the punches, getting down, getting the double leg, and really putting on some decent ground and pound. But I wonder if the criticism against both for not being offensive enough really just came down to that this was a chess match where they canceled each other out so well. I wonder that. Does it pull back to a certain degree on the idea that this killing machine is just going to finish everybody and run to the title? Yes, and I think it's going to lead to a lot more people picking Bilal to win that inevitable title fight, provided that this injury won't keep Shavkat out. Do we know that?
So again, preliminary research. What the hell do I know? It can last. You can get back to. Assuming he has a torn MCL, and assuming he has to get repaired surgically, anywhere between 3 to 4, and then as late as 6 months. We'll have to see.
But regardless of how much Shavkat was compromised, they both agreed to the fight. Gary took it on 3-week notice. Like, there was a lot to like about both of their willingness to basically say, let's do it. Let's do it. It's better for business. Maybe it's better for our careers. All of that. Shavkat took a big chance too. But you cannot act like Gary didn't win this weekend and have one of the better moral victories we've seen in a while. And I think it was punctuated by the time on the mic where he didn't embarrass himself. There wasn't cringy catchphrases. He was about business at hand, and I think he's accomplished it. Listen to his post-fight thoughts and tell me if you agree.
I wanted to come out here and talk to you guys because in victory and defeat, I'm still the same person. I still want to come out here and give you guys what you deserve, the knowledge. I am humble in victory and defeat. I always have been. And I do not feel like I lost today. My hand might not have got raised, but I came out and I fought a giant. I came out and I fought the boogeyman, and I showed that he's fucking human. I went out there on 3 weeks' notice. I saved this event. I saved this card against the scariest man in the division. And I went out there and I stopped almost everything. There was at no point where he looked like he was going to finish the fight. I put him in 2 submissions. I took his back. I had fun. I showed that I can hang with the single best in the division. And I proved tonight, on short notice, that I can absolutely be a champion. And I can do it for 5 rounds, and there's no holes in my game. There was nothing that man brought for me tonight. He won by opinion, and that's okay. That is okay. I can live with that, and I'm very happy with my performance tonight.
I don't see any lies in there, and I'm not trying to become number one in the Ian Machado Gary fan club, but I don't care if you believe that his wife's ex-husband is their trainer and
Are we doing
lives in
this?
their house. No, what
Are
I'm
we
saying
doing
is
this?
like,
How fucking old are we, dude?
like I'm basically saying like it doesn't even matter if you are the worst critical mind looking at him. The kid acted like a fighter, passed all the tests, and literally, like, you can't say he won because he didn't win the fight. Did he win the event? Did he win the story? Yes. But look, he did not lose this fight in terms of what that means. It's an L on the record. The unbeaten record's gone. But everything elevates him moving forward. And I don't know how you can watch that fight and not think he's going to be back in a title fight 2 to 3 fights from now.
Yeah, let me be very clear. I don't even like his fighting style. His fighting style does not please me. But to your point, his ability to enact it at a successful level is simply beyond being contested at this point.
Yeah.
There are limits to it, like anybody else. And again, don't you agree on the offensive side?
Yes.
That's really where he's got.
Well, look, he was so brilliant at shutting down what Shavkat does when he begins to build momentum against you that was where that energy went, in my opinion. So again, it wasn't a perfect performance, and he didn't win, and no one's arguing that he won. But for what our expectations were,
It felt a little bit like Boots versus Chukadzan, which the MMA fans are really not going to understand.
Sure.
Where one guy was supposed to clean up the number one, not number two, the first fight between them, where Chukadzan would just play on the outside. It's like, dude, if a guy is playing defense on you and they're really not trying to do much more than play defense, it is hard to look good against them.
Yep.
You know, when Ian Garry's defense is, again, he's stopping momentum before it ever starts. Look at how good his inside head position was when they were wrestling. Like, he's shutting down a lot of these things so that they can't ever get to the next stage. He prevents the cascading. He prevents the tide from really coming in, and that's where he just kind of holds the fight. It's like the other part of it isn't there so much. But even then, BC, you mentioned it was a double leg. It was not a double leg. He attempted a double leg Rakhmonov in the fourth. He missed it, and then he comes over the top right around the neck and clubs him over while blocking the knee. And the reason why that's relevant is he tries it again in the fifth. Gary ducks under it. It goes past, and so Gary spins him the other way to the mat. Like, that is, if he can marry his offense with his defense, you can see the results. Right now, they're almost a little too segregated, or one's minimized for more than the other one. But Ian Garry is a good fighter. He definitely, I mean, at a bare minimum, I can say this. He earned my respect with this fight. I wasn't, the Irish are so proud of their own that they'll sometimes, like, they'll back anybody, and then you watch them after a few fights, it's like, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but he's not that good. I was a little skeptical of him. And obviously he had been performing, he beat up Neil Magny. He did reasonably well against Jeff Neal, but it was like a fight. And the MVP fight, I kind of thought he scraped through. Even if Shavkat was injured, he's talented. The kid is talented and just 27 years old. Like, he's going to
get better. He's going to build those weapons.
That's the thing for me.
To already have those built-in intangibles of knowing how to. I mean, again, he didn't win this fight, but he seems to have that know-how of how to win close fights, right? He showed that against MVP, even if we didn't like fully the way that he went about it. And even in this case, we're saying we didn't like that he wasn't offensive enough, but he can play. He can cut corners. He can play the edges. He's smart in there. It's going to be able to take him very far. And this fight was really, to be very fair, yes, a win would have gotten him a title shot, and that's what this is all about. But really, this fight was about proving that the hype was there for a reason, and he truly is a potential elite fighter. And he won. He showed us that. And maybe it did help that he has the experience in there of having sparred Shavkat to some degree. But they still both signed up. They still went at it. And he did sort of make the monster look human. He's right. We do have Shavkat, by the way, reacting to Gary's improvement since the time they sparred.
I just want to add very quickly, when he says he saved the event, he did.
He did?
If he's not on that fight and Shavkat has to fight like whoever the fuck, that card was going to be a disaster.
He was the storyline coming in.
100%, so you have to give him credit for that as well.
Жеңіліп көрмеген жауынгер мен үшін бір жақсы сынақ болды. Жеңіске жеткенімге өте қуаныштымын.
Yeah, for sure. He did a lot of work. He improved a lot. It was a great opposition from him, and he's someone who didn't lose for a reason, and it was a great experience for me.
Tons of class.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very impressed with the way Rakhmonov handles himself in general, right? And even if there is an injury that kept him back, he's not going to be the type of guy that's going to reveal it.
I'll say this, too. If he was as injured as Cormier is suggesting, and by the way, that's not the first time he's complained about having some injuries in his lower extremities. He did the same thing against Wonderboy, I think for a different reason. But I'm just going to point this out. Long Island Luke was talking to us before the show, and he said, on Friday, if you had said Shavkat versus Bilal, who's going to win, he would have said Shavkat. He says he's flipped, and I suspect many people feel that way. I don't even think that that's necessarily wrong. We'll have to see what the odds ultimately come to. But I think A, Long Island Luke represents a lot of people, and B, I'm not in any way suggesting it's wrong. What I am going to say is, if you are on Shavkat's team, you cannot beat Belal Muhammad this fucked up. If what you're saying is, and again, it's Cormier saying, so it's not their team, but if the implication anyway is that he was able to get this done in spite of being injured, that's impressive. That's very, very impressive. It is not going to get the job done against Muhammad.
Sure.
So if surgery is needed and some kind of rehab is needed, now is the time to get it. Because what I don't want to hear is like, oh, I just don't want to get surgery and then fight Muhammad, and you look like a version of yourself that we can somewhat recognize, and then be like, well, I did my best. Go get the medical help that you need to perform at your best.
Well, before we get into the idea of Belal versus Shavkat, provided that he's healthy, if he's not, what becomes of the title picture right now?
They might give it to somebody else.
I mean, who's knocking on that door for next in line?
The thing is this. I don't think Buckley is that close, even if he goes and starches.
Although that would help. That would help if
Right.
this scenario played
So
out
I was just
that way.
going to say, but if he does starch
Yes.
Colby Covington and they have to keep busy, dude, we just saw Poatan versus Khalil Roundtree. You could absolutely get something like that where, hey, is he the number one contender in Buckley if he wins versus Colby? Probably not number one contender. Close enough. Close enough. We got to keep, dude, the number one thing that the UFC needs is for the trains to leave the station on time. When they need a welterweight title bout, they need the champion to be ready, and they need the contender to be ready. And if Shavkat's not going to be ready, I don't mind if somebody else gets it, BC. I mean, it doesn't matter who the champ is by the time Shavkat returns. I just want to be very clear. If I still think very highly of Shavkat, I still am not changing my prediction. He will wear UFC gold, but he won't wear UFC gold this year if he has to fight Muhammad and he actually has a torn MCL. It's not going to work.
Okay, let's close the if Shavkat is injured talk by remembering that Leon Edwards is the number one contender. Would he get an opportunistic opportunity, Luke, to slide in there? We know that he told the Zone boxing broadcast last week that he's going to headline UFC London in March. What if they said, hey, we need you to fight for the welterweight title instead? Could you go back to that matchup?
You could. I don't think that they would. I think that.
And what are you going to do? Kamaru Usman is still ranked number 2, which makes no sense.
What about JDM?
You could do JDM, but I think they're going to save him for that Australia card. We haven't heard that yet, but that's my implication. The Kamaru one you could do. Remember, Kamaru and Belal had all of that trash talk.
Kamaru's got a lot of money in the bank from the standpoint of us just accepting that he's still like a viable welterweight title
I think
contender.
Belal washes him. I do. I think not at his peak. I don't know that. I think Kamaru would probably win. I do not think that Kamaru is even close to his peak anymore. He had a phenomenal career as champion, but those days are over.
And he fought very well against Chimaev under those circumstances.
He's not a scrub, but he's not what he was.
Yes.
He's not what he was.
Yeah,
And I think
fair.
Belal is at the peak of his powers.
All right. Now, people are saying that the face-off we did get in the cage afterwards, after Shavkat came away with this unanimous but close decision victory, and they called for the champ, and there was ha-ha, and Joe Rogan spoke into the mic and said what was probably true, that the security didn't realize that Belal was the champ. Luke, people are saying this is the most underwhelming face-off they've ever seen. I mean, Bilal's like just wearing sweats like he's going grocery shopping on a Sunday here. I mean,
I don't mind that.
I kind of wanted a little bit more of like some oomph, didn't you?
Well, do we have a picture of it or anything?
I think we have Bilal's comments.
Let me hear.
I'm here with the UFC welterweight champion Belal Muhammad, who has just watched the essentially eliminator fight between Shavkat Rakhmonov and Ian Garry. Shavkat Rakhmonov's going to be your next opponent. What do you say to that?
I'm excited, right? Because I was supposed to fight him now.
Exactly.
So I was studying him, watching tape on him. Now he just gave me an extra 25 minutes to watch. So I just want to get back in there. It's feeling the energy. Anytime you're at a fight live, seeing your opponents in the cage, I'm hype. I just can't wait to get in there, and I can't wait to show the world that there's levels to this. I'm the best in the world.
And this is the first time Shavkat's gone the distance. So like you said, there's more tape on him now. What did you see in that fight that maybe is a vulnerability or something, not a weakness, no one has weaknesses, but something that you could capitalize on that maybe you hadn't seen before?
There's a lot of stuff, right? When I look at both of them, you could also take it in a different perspective, right? They're training partners, so maybe they fought carefully for that reason. They've trained with each other, they've seen each other. And Shavkat, this was his first fight in like a year. So I don't like to look at fights and be like, oh man, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Obviously I could watch this fight and be like, I'm not impressed, I'm gonna walk through them. But for my mindset, I always try to take the best of every fighter that I'm facing, every opponent that I'm facing. So I just got to be smart with it. And like I said, break down the tape, look at the little things that he does, see if it was something we caught before, and then continue to break him down.
I got to say, I'm very excited about this matchup, provided Shavkat can do this. Do you think Belal watched some of those negative aspects of Gary's game, the defense, the spatial control, and is thinking, I can take away this guy's danger just as easily?
I don't think he's doing that. I do think, though, he watched that 5th round back take and was like, thank you, Jesus. That's the one that I think.
I don't know if he necessarily said that. But.
Oh, right. Probably not that.
Probably not, but shout out just the same. Yes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But the point I want to make is I think he saw that and was like, okay, there's a path here. And I mean, not just because of that, but that was a punctuated moment where you're like, wow, Gary was able to get the back and keep it. And Shavkat, what is the negative through line between the Neal fight for Shavkat and then this one for Shavkat? Dude, just defensively way too reckless. Walking into range against Jeff Neal, unconcerned with his power, and then here letting Gary find the choke, you know what I mean? And you're not really fighting the hands for a pretty extended period.
How scared were you? How scared were you in that moment?
Well, like I said,
it wasn't Volkanovski versus Ortega level scared, but you were close, right?
No, it was great point. No, was not that scared. But I was watching it. Here's the thing. If Gary had been hand fighting and really just did better, I'd be like, you know what, man? Fuck it. Like, he was the better guy. But to not even employ your hands for the hand fighting, I was like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? That was the part that was a little bit disconcerting at first. But nevertheless, he persevered. He got the reversal, and it was what it was. I just feel like I forgot the fuck I was talking about. Jesus Christ.
You were talking about Shavkat versus Belal Muhammad.
Yeah.
And you were.
Oh, yes. But Muhammad, he's going to have a very different approach. He is going to push into Rakhmanov.
Yes.
And work to the back. And that is a very doable game plan against very good guys. Like, can you see Belal taking 3 rounds out of 5 against Shavkat doing that? I think you should be able to. Well,
you have to avoid those sharp hammers, those counter shots that are coming after you in a way that Gary did not put himself in that strike
1,000,000,000%. And I did make this point. You saw this long, Luke. You said you saw my recap where if you're playing defensive long guard and you're snapping and you're interrupting your base and I can't really ever get going and you're not letting me establish a rhythm, that's very different than just meeting Rakhmonov head on.
That's cock blocking.
Right? Yeah. Rakhmonov wants you to meet him head on. That's where he likes to fight. Some of what Belal does will be that, and I think to that extent, it more favors Rakhmonov. But this is what I mean. That fight got more interesting because a lot of folks, including me, were like, "Yeah, Rakhmonov is going to run him over," and now you're like, to me, kind of coin flip-ish.
All right, let's set a line. Let's bring in our degenerate gambler, Long Island Luke. Aussie rules, no CETA. What's the Long Island Luke betting line for this fight?
I still think Belal should be a dog, but it's going to be close. I'm going to say -150 Rakhmonov, +125 Belal.
I think that's about right. You like that?
I do kind of like that. We got to make sure Shavkat's okay. We got to hear from him about the knee.
Yeah. Again, did Danny Rube get back to me? Hey, Danny, answer my text messages.
Danny Rube is, yeah, there we go. I love that guy. Let's go to
By
topic.
the way, when we talk about him on the show, he sent me a screenshot last week. People tell him.
Well, they should. Yeah. He's, we're like the best show in the game. He's one of the best managers in the game. It just makes a lot of sense. Hey, let's go to topic number 2, and that's the man in the main event, the face of the flyweight division. I'm talking about Alexandre Pantoja, who submitted a feisty and dangerous, but ultimately overmatched Kai Asakura, who was making his UFC debut in this title fight. It took place in the second round of Saturday's main event, and if Pantoja cannot get a fight against Demetrious Johnson next, which he asked for and which we will certainly talk about. Luke, what should be next? And what should we be saying about this thorough walking right into the danger and then humbling Asakura? Dude, this guy Pantoja's pound for pound, man. Like he's real deal.
There's a question about where he goes pound for pound. I don't know if he's ranked highly enough. There's certainly debate because you're asking about the level of competition, which is perhaps the most critical component.
Sure.
But he's the second best flyweight in UFC history. That's who he is.
Above Henry Cejudo?
Well, the thing
he
is,
put himself at 3 behind DJ and Cejudo.
I appreciate that. Certainly he's behind DJ. I mean, no matter what, DJ's number one, and we're just going to leave it that way.
Yeah.
The thing about Cejudo is this. He has done more in combat sports and more in the UFC by becoming a two-weight world champion. But if we're just looking about like who reigned over flyweight the longest and the best, I think his resume, his flyweight resume, is better than Cejudo's, with the exception of the DJ win. But overall, in general, I think it's better.
And the DJ win was questionable.
The DJ win was very questionable. I mean, it was a close fight, but
Yes.
it wasn't like he got finished the first time they fought, and it was very controversial the second. So there's that. I just feel like what he's done of late is so special. So, dude, this guy, to borrow from Teddy Atlas, is a firefighter. He sees a burning building, and he doesn't run the other way. He runs into the fire.
We live in the flames.
He lives. Okay, you don't have to make him sound like he got hit in the head with a hammer. I mean, you don't have to do that. You're making him sound like Lenny from of Mice and Men.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Lenny from The Simpsons, but it's probably the
maybe
same
that
reference.
one too.
Just
he is all action. He is all courage. He is all excitement. He fights with absolute purpose every second of the fight. And more importantly, I want to make this point too. Very, 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 at least in key portions of the game, there's some parts where he throws caution to the wind. But in general, very, very technical.
I was going to say, getting technically better. It's title defense by title defense, it seems.
No doubt about it. He had Kai Asakura, who, fought spirited for as long as the fight lasted.
Was dangerous as shit with those flying knees, let's be honest.
Couldn't take his back, had him at one of these angles, like a T-bone angle, and used what's called a Kosoto hook to pull him off and run him in a direction, which got Asakura to plant his weight, and then he just attacks over the back with that choking arm. Dude, I mean, this is, what else do you want from a champion? I know what the answer is going to be. The answer is going to be, we want some rivalry, we want some story, we want some bad blood. And honestly, that is a missing critical component. But part of the reason that it's missing is that DJ is gone and Henry moved up and some of the bigger names are gone. The other part, BC, is because he is destroying that division by himself. The only other fight that is available that makes sense at this point, I know what you could say. You could run Royval back. I don't know what I don't know how you justify
with
that.
2 wins over Royval and 3 wins if you count the exhibition against Moreno, I don't see how either guy could get it next.
The answer is Kai France because there's just no one else
What
left.
about Albazi?
Albazi just lost.
That's
He
right.
just lost.
That's right.
Dude, it's Kai France.
It really is.
Think about this for a second. Guys win UFC titles and they're like, hey, I'm thinking about going up to the next division. And you're like, you haven't beat anybody yet. It turns out that the flyweight champion, if he beats Kai France, has like the best argument for going up in weight because there's literally no one left for him to fight anymore. I understand that when you go up in weight, part of that is a celebrity cause. You have the fans have to kind of rally behind it and for it to make sense. So I'm not predicting it or even saying that it will happen. I'm simply saying his case for going up in weight is one of the strongest among active UFC champions because the dude has decimated this division.
If he beats Kai France, he would be 10-0 against people in the top 10 if that's the next fight. But dude, he's getting better with each fight, and it hasn't been like full domination. I mean, the Urseg fight came down to almost a miscalculation at the end.
Sure.
And what was the first title defense? That was Royval, right?
Yeah, I'll double check.
Which was
here.
a 5-round decision and a competitive but clear win in that regard. We really were questioning. We've been questioning every title defense when Father Time was going to knock on the door and say, nice idea, great run, everything's going great, but you can only take that much punishment or you can only stay at this level for so long. Yet he's getting better as he's getting older. And Luke, if you recall the shape he came in for this fight, dude, did you see the abs had like that extra line below the pecs with the cross under? I mean, this guy is going all in right now, and he's for as reckless as his pressure can look at times, he brings technique and smarts, and almost like Charles Oliveira in a sense. His ability to navigate responsively within the chaos that he creates by putting the pressure on you is the key to why he's so great. But he also has to wear a little bit of that. But if you noticed, anytime Asakura hit a big strike on him, instant counter 1-2, speedy as shit, and tagged Asakura with a receipt instantly after each knee or after each big punch. So it almost began to take the air out of the balloon of what Asakura was trying to do. And then look, when that second round happened and when he saw the opening and got the back, I mean, it was over. So I didn't think he would be able to bring this much sustainability, especially when you go back and rewatch the title win over Moreno, where it was just pour out the heart and the chin and the balls and the guts and just, it was almost like risk it all. Don't care about the future. We want this one moment to win the belt. But yet, Luke, now he's figured out how to be sustainable. And now we're literally talking about, is there anyone left where he can fight? And does this DJ situation make sense? It's worth having a conversation, we thought, except for the fact that Demetrious Johnson was watching the live broadcast when he was called out by the champion here. So let's see his immediate response, and then we'll answer anything to the idea of, is this fight possible?
This fight is special for some retired fight. He don't fight anymore. He retired this year, but this is something message for you, Demetrious Johnson.
Oh,
I'm
me?
the GOAT here.
My
If you
black
want
ass
to
ain't
prove
coming
you're
out
the
of
GOAT, come back.
Sir, congratulations.
Why would I do that? Boys. Bank count sitting nice and good. 38 years old, 11 consecutive title defenses. Champ ain't coming back.
I believe him. Because he's built a reputation of not being about that, right?
Also, I think he, just on a procedural standpoint, he has fights left on his one deal.
So it seems like there's the Twitter rumors that there's one fight left on there. Is that something that can, if, you know, and Dana White was asked about it at the post-fight press conference, and he seemed to have some level of interest. He didn't shoot it down at all. Can you buy out that deal?
If one would allow that to be bought, I'm sure that they could find a way to do that.
But it might not be cheap or timely.
And the UFC is cheap and
DJ doesn't seem
in a hurry
to
all the
want
time.
it.
Yeah.
But how excited would you be if that was reality? If Demetrious was watching live and said, yeah, let's call my people, let's figure out how to do this. Because, yes, I get what you're saying about the contract reality. He retired at one. He didn't finish out his deal.
I would freaking love it. I mean, again, I totally understand DJ. I don't in any one way sit here. I saw people being like, I saw people saying DJ is ducking Pantoja. I'm like, if you're retired, how the fuck is it ducking? Like, you're not even eligible to be accused of ducking. You're not competing. You're out. You're fucking done. And it wasn't like there was any inkling that this fight was even available. Like, they just threw it at him, and all of a sudden.
I don't think he ever could or wants to cut to 120, or probably could, but he doesn't want to cut to 125.
I think he could do it, but that's right. I don't think he wants to either. But listen, how would it be as a fight? Dude, it'd be fucking great. And I think Pantoja would probably be a little bit favored, just given the state of where DJ is at. No, still good, but not at his best, and we have to kind of countenance that. I just feel like, you know, we're at a place where, again, Pantoja, Brandon Moreno, the last fight was competitive. That was the third of them. And Pantoja won them all.
Yeah.
Like, what are we, like?
I mean, I think we just have to see Moreno and Pantoja again. I'm sorry, Moreno and Royval again.
Yes, you could do that. I also feel like they're going to have, you know, we didn't put it in the rundown, but Dana White was sort of all effusive with praise for Ryzen.
Yes.
They might just bring over more Japanese fighters.
We got a question coming up about that.
Oh, we do?
In the DMs.
Okay. I haven't seen that.
I have a possible matchup. How about Davison Figueiredo moves back down to 125? He already has a win over Pantoja, and he's a former champion.
If he can make the weight, sure. I don't know if he can make the weight
Think
anymore.
about it. He just lost in a fight that could have propelled him to a bantamweight title shot.
Yeah, no, I would love to see it. I don't know if he can make the weight.
Okay, I like that idea. I like that. That's worth a call and a conversation, right?
For sure.
That is.
If you can get him down to 125. But remember, it's like it doesn't make sense at 126. Like, it really is no margin for error on that one.
I got to be honest, though. I had him in my top 10 pound for pound the last couple of fights, Pantoja. I had him in the back end for CBS Sports. But I had this lingering feeling like, does he fully belong? What about the veterans that are in from 10 to 15, the former champions, the guys that are still showing us a pound for pound level? They're just not champions now. But I'm glad he had this performance to show us exactly where he's at. Exactly where he's at is he's somehow even better than he was 3 fights ago. So this guy's trending upward. Let's see how high he can get on that.
He'll be 35, I think, in April.
Brazilians are different. They're different. We got to. There has to be the asterisk on the 35 and under rule, or on the 30. I mean, Bilal too. Bilal's skirting off age easily here.
He is. And again, for how much longer we'll see. But that, you know, yes,
interesting stuff. But hey, shout out Pantoja.
But also, that's above 155. So that's different.
Do you feel like, though, because the talk was about Shavkat and Garry, that once the main event happened, it was kind of like,
Yeah, I was doing a live stream, and then I lost like a bunch of viewers after the co-main because people were like, I don't give a fuck. And the thing is this, Kai Asakura, I saw some accusations that he kind of under-delivered. I'm like, not really. That
He went for it. Yeah.
That the way that it went was one of the more plausible ways that it could have gone. He did land intercepting strikes on Pantoja. That knee up the middle, right on the liver. I was like,
those shots finish other people. I'm serious.
100%. That's actually what dropped. No, I think he may have hit him on the chin, but it was one of the similar kinds of knees when Archuleta shot in on him. Like, dude, those are powerful shots. It's just Pantoja fights with a certain kind of competitive fire that is psychotic. He is prison shower, fight to the death.
Damn.
Kind of intensity, man. That's what he's got.
What do you call it? Get that guy a shiv, right?
He doesn't need one.
Wow.
He
All
doesn't need
right.
one.
Shout out to Pantoja. I'd be down for KKF. Let's keep this division moving.
Yeah. After that, though, I don't know what they're going to do. I genuinely don't.
I hope he gets a chance to kind of maximize whatever the peak of his star stealing could be. You know what I mean? He's doing the right move. That's the right move to call it, DJ.
Yeah. At 135, Pantoja versus O'Malley, what do you think?
O'Malley, but I'd like to see it.
There's that sparring footage of them, if you remember. O'Malley stops Pantoja with a body shot.
How long ago was it?
It's a good question. It looks pre-Sean's UFC debut, maybe early on UFC days. Probably a few years old at this point.
Still pretty good. I would still want to see it.
Interesting. All right, let's move on over to topic number 3, and it was the heavyweight rematch that offered big moves for the winner in terms of title positioning, or so we thought. Ciryl Gane ends up getting what a lot of people believe to be was a gift decision in a very close 3-round fight in the rematch with Alexander Volkov. Is it fair to say that not only has Ciryl Gane failed to improve, Luke, but maybe, and I think he echoed that by running out of the cage and initially turning down the post-fight Victor interview, is Ciryl Gane regressing after getting a win that almost nobody had it for him? I think Danny Segura was the only prominent media member who scored it 2-1 for Gane. Everyone else had it 2-1 or 3-0 for Volkov.
How'd you score it?
2-1 Volkov. It's not like a crazy robbery. It was a close fight where neither man was truly overly effective, but Volkov got the better of almost all of the striking components and seemed to have the better takedowns and control on top. I echoed Dana, and maybe not so much in they effing robbed you or whatever, but they gave it to the wrong man. I quibble with those two, and one of them is Adelaide Bird. So we're thinking is 118, 110 Canelo every time that happens. But let's talk first about Gane as a stock here. Going backwards, Luke. I called him a donk, and some fans didn't like that. I didn't mean to be rude to him, but he kind of donked out in there a little bit.
Okay. So here's another case where you have to decide what the hell's happening. He put out pictures of an x-ray where he had broken his big toe and then the two next to it. So 3 toes he had broken on the same
Okay, that's
foot.
not nothing. And if a guy that's known for movement, that's not nothing.
So
right?
I went back and I watched their first fight. And what you notice in that one is 2 things. On the Gane side, he's like Robert Whittaker, bouncing up and down, up and down, up and down. If your feet are broken, or at a bare minimum, several of your toes, including your big toe, that's obviously going to be a lot harder to do. And if you notice in this second fight, he wasn't bouncing much. He was kind of stepping and sliding. Now, also, I noticed he threw a kick and Volkov caught it, which he never did in the first fight as well. And that kind of limited what he could do. So I do think it is worth, we're going to give Rakhmonov at least a little bit of understanding that injuries can affect how you perform. Maybe giving Gane a little bit of that, I think, is important. I also went back and I was like, okay, because I was really harsh on him on Saturday.
Yeah, where was the volume striking? Where was anything?
Well, hold on. I was looking at some of the takedowns. They were decent from him.
Oh, he showed improvement, right?
In certain areas.
Okay.
In certain areas. However, dude, I don't understand his grappling like at all.
I don't think he does either.
He doesn't. There are 2. I could pick 3 scenarios. You know what? Let's talk about them because I actually think this is pretty important.
And I'm glad you are, because I get mad when Dana White tries to reframe the John story of not ducking Francis. And we beat Gane, the best heavyweight in the world. He was not the best heavyweight in the world. Let's be fair.
Yeah. So there's 3 scenarios that I want to talk about that really just pissed me off watching. I just was like, what the fuck are you doing? The first one is he is caught in leg drag, then moves to side control, and Volkov has a crossface. Like, rule number 1, if someone has if they're just holding it, there's nothing going on, then it's different. But if there's actually a little bit of force to it, you have to clear the crossface before you can do anything, because the crossface is designed to drive their shoulder down and immobilize you. How can you effectively scramble if part of your spine is immobilized? Rule number 1, clear it. He tries to fight off of the bottom without ever clearing it. And it's like, dude, I don't know how to explain this to people. It's like trying to show up to put out a fire and you just forgot the water. Like, you can't even get this fucking process started until you have something like that. That was one. I really hated that one. The second one that drove me up the wall was when he was underneath in half guard. Do you remember this? In the third round, he overcommits positionally, stops scrambling, and then has this Kimura underneath. And I think it may be why he won the fight. I have to go back and check some of the judges' scorecards. Can you look up the judges' scorecards for that fight, the Gane-Volkov 2 fight? I want to see how they scored the third round. If anybody scored the third round for Gane, I really think they got that one wrong.
I know Adelaide scored 1 and 2 for Gane and the third for Volkov.
Okay, that's a little bit more understandable. But that third round, him sitting underneath the way he was, if you've never rolled, that Kimura grip is very powerful. You cannot just rip your arm out of it, especially against heavyweight guys. They're just too strong. There is a point where he's holding on to it and he doesn't advance in any of the ways that you need to because he's completely on bottom, out of ideas, and does not know what the fuck to do and just gets stuck there the whole time. I didn't mind the guillotine. Remember the end of round one? I didn't mind it because it was close to the end of the round. But the one that just drives me up the fucking wall is he's standing over Gane and he's got a leg and he chooses to go from a standing position to a sitting position.
Nuts. It drives you nuts.
To go for a shitty-ass heel hook that is nowhere close. Of course he gives it up, and now they're both back to standing. You want me to take seriously your foot is broken. Why are you giving up it wasn't on top of him, but why are you giving up a standing position to sit? BC, I cannot overstate this to you. My first month of training, I started to do that, and I can see where I was in my time in my life when I had instructors being like, "Don't you dare sit on your ass to go for either a heel hook or a Achilles lock. Pass his fucking guard."
Yeah.
Pass his fucking guard. Dude, even if I want to give him a mulligan for the standing, and maybe there is something to be said for that, let me just say it outright, his decision-making and somewhat his ability in the grappling department is terrible. 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 Not fit for the top of this division or any other division. Unbelievably poor.
Here's what's crazy is while he was having all that success initially before he got out-wrestled by a one-legged man against Ngannou, I used to ask that question every time of, can he win a fight if he's not controlling all of the terms with his A game? And the answer is no. I mean, the answer is no in terms of an elite fight at this point, right? For the most part.
It's definitely no.
And dude, there were no combinations. Volkov was controlling distance with almost ease at times. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't like Volkov was perfect in this fight. Okay, let me ask you the question that I asked you coming in. Now that we're coming out of it, is Volkov the worst of the elite title contending heavyweights or the best of that decided second tier?
I think he should have been the worst of the best title contending.
He's getting pretty close. If that was a win, he's getting pretty close to a title shot.
So the other part there is Volkov is undeniably not like, we should give you credit because you've been high on the Volkov renaissance.
I also said he would have wrestling in long periods on top of Gane. And you're like, no chance. You know,
he is much improved, and you could point to a couple things. I was again going back to the first fight, walking Gane down in this one made a huge difference. Gane can't bounce and go if he's constantly on the back foot. That was a big one. BC, on top of that, his defense has gotten a little bit better. His awareness of how Gane would evade and then intercepting him as he ducked or ran.
His striking variety, too.
Striking variety. His timing was much better. He understood much better the assignment about how to keep Gane from being able to get his offensive rhythm going. So we're sitting here bagging on Gane, which is well-deserved, especially in the grappling component. But we also have to be fair. He was up against a much different Volkov. But this is the point. Why wasn't Volkov up against a much different Gane? Why has Gane, at least in the grappling department, has he added other skills? Yes, he has added other skills. He has not improved his decision-making or foundational level of knowledge almost at all, or certainly not even close to enough John Jones's wins are over the grappling of Ciryl Gane and the ghost
I know.
of Stipe Miocic, and people are like, he can do what he wants.
Number one pound for pound, Luke.
Fight fucking Tom Aspinall because that shit doesn't count for anything.
Oh. I was not
I got the
impressed.
scorecards if
I
you
was
want.
not impressed by Gane.
Anybody
at all.
give Gane the third round?
No, all 3 judges gave Volkov.
Thank
round
God. Okay, I was so worried about that. All
How
right.
did you have it, Long Island?
I had a 2-1. I was glad I didn't bet on Volkov because I think he should have won, and I would have been very pissed.
Okay, does it come like when Dana comes out, chases him down, or not? Just walks over and grabs Volkov and was like, "I thought you got effing screwed on the cards." Does that mean he'll get a favorable matchup next, and they'll treat it as a win, or just treat it as a no contest and move forward?
They'll probably do him something of a solid, but they're not going to give him a gimme. I mean, there are gimmies in that division,
Sure.
but I don't think he even wants that. He's trying to ascend.
Yes.
So it's like, will he get a fight that is of premium heavyweight quality? Yes, but it's probably going to be a tough one. It might be Blades.
Blades in a fight night main event.
Yeah,
or
something like that,
Interesting. Let's hear from Volkov, who was upset about the way this fight was scored, although he could be just as upset about his own hair choices on this.
The worst cornrows I've ever seen.
My respect to Ciryl Gane. He wasn't like a guy who just walked out from the cage after the decision because he didn't feel this too. So nothing bad to my opponent. I just don't accept with commission. I can't agree with this.
He was in here and he said that he injured his toe after the first kick of the fight and that affected his performance. Did you feel that he was hurt and was changing, or did you just think he wasn't able to keep you off him with your wrestling and your ability?
I was feeling he was absolutely broken. Like mentally, he was and the fact he broke his finger is a damage that I give to him. So it's a one more fact that I get this fight. How can the guy who was less active and come with more damage, took from the fight, could win the fight? I don't understand this.
Did he make a good point there? He caused the damage ultimately, so why are we talking about it?
Hard to say. I mean, if you break your toes on someone's body when you're striking, I mean, yes, they did it, but they didn't do it with great intention. They just did it by being there, partly by being, who knows how they blocked it. It's really hard to say. It's a little bit taking credit for something that is hard to say. It's hard to say.
John Jones would love to fight him. It'd be the perfect title defense for John Jones because of the speed disadvantage.
Yeah, and he likes to wrestle guys that's not their, primary base.
Does he ever get there? Do you think Volkov ever gets to the title shot?
He might. I mean, depending how things go. It's not like the problem is if Aspinall ends up either beating John or just becoming the champion outright, depending how this goes. It's like, dude, Aspinall. Did you ever go back and watch Aspinall versus Gane?
He swallowed him, dude. And I was ready for Volkov to make the leap in that fight. I didn't know Aspinall was that great, and I was just like, what just happened?
And it's like a uniquely bad matchup because Aspinall is so fast and so athletic. It's like
and made him look clueless on the ground.
100%. It's kryptonite for a guy like Volkov. But you just can't walk away from this fight being like, oh, that's the same Volkov. Gane looks shittier. Gane looks shittier, or at a bare minimum, static in key portions. That is a much better Volkov.
I mean, the post-fight interview was about Gane revealing that he doesn't have the answers to the questions against him. He doesn't understand why that performance came out the way he did. I'm not saying he's not trying and not training hard, but there's a same thing I said. The mojo seems to be gone. The way that he used to carry himself, and there's a disconnection between the game he's trying to accomplish and maybe the understanding of it or the time put in. I don't know what it is.
I don't know enough about what happens at MMA Factory to declare that, breaking ties is the most important thing. But I do think it's probably safe to say he needs to get wrestling training outside of MMA Factory, and he needs to get a lot of training more generally beyond MMA Factory. If he wants to stay with him install in some important capacities and to, Ray Longo doesn't train all of his guys, but then he'll corner them. I think that's fine. He desperately needs some supplemental training. But again, it's like, dude, you're 34. How are you still making grappling decisions this bad?
Well, is the answer because he literally went from the first day of MMA training to fighting in the UFC within something like 12 or 13 months.
Probably.
I mean, that kind of explains it.
And guys just didn't know how to beat him yet. And Volkov had a much better idea about how to beat him and got pretty goddamn far with it.
Good performance, good-ass performance. But Who do you think anyone specifically should be next or will be next for either? Or?
Also, he couldn't finish the Von Flue choke. I was just like, oh my fucking God, bro. You lock up the Von Flue and you don't even really try and push it. It's like.
I mean, what do you do? Gane goes back to the Spivak, the Tabura level?
Yeah.
Even though we got to win here?
Yeah, no, dude, he needs work.
Yeah.
Can he beat them doing his A game, to your point? Yeah, he can beat some of these guys. But then that falls apart against the A-level guys, and then he has to bring out the B, and then the B is just, I mean, it's an F.
Yeah,
let's be honest. He goes from A to F. There's really no in between.
All right, let's go to topic number 4, and it was who else on the UFC 310 performed well? Luke, what's the biggest storyline below the heavyweight fight and the 2 title fights atop the card?
I'm going to say how bad Chrome Gracie looked, but I would like to focus on the winners instead.
Okay, thank you.
If that's okay. And, dude, there's a lot of directions you can go, but we have to go with arguably the best fight on the card, Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling. What a fun-ass fight. What a contrast in grappling styles. Competitive the whole way through, but Movsar is tough at 145. His strength on top is incredible. His balance, his understanding of how positions are about to move and getting there before even Sterling could get there. I thought Sterling made a great account of himself. He absolutely threatened Movsar in ways that we really haven't seen him, not even Diego Lopez could do. But Movsar is that dude. He is so talented, so strong.
Doesn't ingest sugar in any form.
Diced to the socks that guy is. I thought it was really, really impressive. And don't you agree?
I agree.
Long Island Luke, that was a fun-ass fight, was it not?
Yeah, it totally backfired in the UFC's face, being like, this is a boring-ass fight. Let's bury it on the prelims. It turned out to be one of the best fights.
Aljamain gave, I thought, everything he possibly could. I thought Movsar was pushed in ways he wasn't before. It
was intriguing. It wasn't thrilling. It was intriguing.
Yeah. No, it wasn't like edge of your seat, but it was... You could see the chess.
Sure.
You could see that. I mean, these guys were getting after it. They weren't stalling by any stretch.
But that style is going to hold Movsar back from getting extra opportunities. And he said it afterwards, right? He more or less said, I'll fight. It doesn't matter. If they line up 100 guys to get to the title shot, I'll beat them all.
It might have to be that way.
It might have to be that way is what I'm saying in this division.
They've got an exciting guy at the top that they... I mean, do I want to see Topuria versus Evloev? Sure. But if you've got options with Topuria, especially if Islam is one of them, you're going to have to wait a little bit.
That's true. I mean, Aljo deserves a shot at that decision. I remember I wasn't scoring it like officially, but loosely I'm like, that could be 2-1, Aljo. Am I crazy on that?
You got to show me which two.
Let's go to the man from Long Island. Am I crazy on that?
I mean, I was a little biased, but I had Aljo with the spread, so I like that bet a lot. I don't think there's a case for him to win it. But he looked competitive. I'll say that.
He did.
How far are you from just selling your car to feed this this habit?
I'm very lucrative, Luke. We do well on main card minute.
I'm not saying you don't know what you're doing, but I know a lot of people have known what they're doing who've had to explain to their wife why they drain their savings.
Well, I told you that the Volkov resurgence was upon us, and despite the loss, maybe I was right. I told you bet on Doo-Hoo Choi. Now he didn't ultimately. No, he did ultimately get the stoppage that we were looking for here against a largely ineffective Nate Landwehr, who took the L like a man and put out a video afterwards where he just owned it. But for being away from the sport and now back-to-back good performances here coming off the Bill Algeo win, you said coming in that, we're not like booking this guy for a path to the title. He's a fun, TV fighter to some degree, but he surprised you with
he looked, here's the thing, the biggest difference. Striking looked smooth, which we'd seen before, but it looked even smoother.
Yeah, tight.
But he cared about defense. He'd pop into range and then pop out of range.
That was never there before.
That was never there before. And how about he hit one of the throws he hit to get Landwehr to the ground? It's called a sasai. You block the outside foot and you turn him. He hit that, which was crisp. But those are hard to do. That's a real difficult move to hit. And then finishing from mounted crucifix. It was like, dude, it wasn't just a good performance. It was a complete performance.
I'm wondering if there is a run for this guy.
33 years old, missed 4 years of his prime. He missed like 28 to 32. Like, no.
And he took some damage in those.
Took a shit.
Those
Another 4 years probably helped.
Yeah.
4 years probably helped, but nevertheless, I don't think so.
I love having Korean Zombie in his corner and seeing that mentorship. Although you wouldn't think defense would come from Coach Korean Zombie.
You wouldn't? Maybe he's got a defensive coach, but like you got to feel good about where he is now.
Yes.
You got to feel good. Like you can, how many great matchups can you make with Choi? A gazillion.
Yes.
A gazillion.
Also in that featherweight division, it was a Donkerson performance to some degree from Kron Gracie, and even Dana got sick of people, setting him up to dunk on him afterwards, and was pretty salty in that post-fight press conference. But Bryce Mitchell did what he's supposed to do, but it seemed like he got a lot of positive feelings coming out of here. Back on the win track, it was 2 losses in 3 fights, but like devastating ones when you consider what Topuria did to him, and then one of the most brutal one-punch knockout losses to Josh Emmett. I guess it was good to see him back, whether you agree with his seatbelt or flat earth theories. Does this propel him forward to an interesting fight moving ahead?
Sure.
Or is he still kind of stuck in the middle of the pack?
As I mentioned, he's only 30 years old. 30 years old. He's very good. He is, I think, we know him as like the ground specialist, the guy who got the twister, but he's pretty well-rounded, Bryce, actually. I feel like he's got, can he go on a run to the title just with his hands? No, probably not that. But could he beat really good guys? Dude, he beat Dan Ige just before the fight with Josh Emmett. So, like, he's beating quality guys out here. That's no small achievement. That was a close fight, though. I mean, I kind of thought it was a little controversial, but you see what I'm saying? Like, the traditional markers of quality. Dude, his 2 losses are Josh Emmett and Ilia Topuria. Maybe, and he's 30 years old. Maybe pump the brakes on. Granted, the stoppage loss to Topuria was really bad, and the one to Emmett was nuclear meltdown bad.
Those were bad, dude.
Okay, and they gave him a bit of a soft landing here.
Sure.
30 years old, I think he'd be very foolish to.
And he shouted out JC in the post. That's the only man that can say
I think JC got shouted out by literally every single winner on that card, right?
Yeah, I was down with that. I also want to throw a shout out to Michael Chiesa for not only the win, considering how kind of inactive he is at this portion of his career and the dominant submission, but he shouted out Derek Thompson, the UFC employee that I used to work with ESPN back in the day. Who
you knew him?
Who passed away? Yeah, I worked with him for a long time at ESPN and loved him and seen him through the years. So, that brought a tear to my eye to see that shout out and to do that in the post-fight interview. I love that. But that was the good. There is some bad coming out of there, and the idea that Anthony Smith with the performance there against Dominic Reyes and maybe Chris Weidman too, maybe even Clay Guida. All 3, is it time to go?
It's time to go. It's time to go. Clay Guida has had a nice long run. I don't know how much he's adding to his quality of life when fighting is over. He didn't get like super beat up, but I just don't. You're risking bad injury continuing to fight out there.
When you made your UFC debut in 2006, I mean, it's incredible longevity. Like, I do give those guys, the Jim Miller guys, I give those guys credit for sure.
100%. I give him credit. Chris Weidman, we said it before the fight, needs to retire. It's just so long. I mean, the amount of damage he's doing to himself, to me, is really just kind of heartbreaking at this point. I would really wish he would stop. And then do we have the clip of Dominic Reyes? Anthony Smith, who we've had I've had a good relationship with for a long time, and you more recently as well.
Great guy.
He should not have fought on Saturday.
It was heartbreaking to watch.
Let's play this clip.
Anthony's a true warrior, and he's gonna fight to the end. And he wanted to fight to the end. Right? He needed to feel something tonight, whatever he's going through. But he kept moving. Right, the ref said, "Come on, Anthony," and he would move. So he gave him a little bit more leeway. So when I went in the cage, I haven't been around Anthony much in my life, for the record. But when I went in the cage with him, he was emotional, right? And that's a dangerous man that has, he said it, he's fighting for his friend, right? And he doesn't care about the outcome. He just wants to feel something. There was a point in the first round when he put his hands down and was just like, punch me in the face. And I obliged, right? So that's my job. My job is to finish you and get you out of there. Whether you're going through something or not, you're going to give me free shots or not, I'm going to hit you. And that's what we're professional fighters. It's a very dangerous game, and God bless Anthony, all the best to him. Prayers for him and his team and his teammate he lost, family. Losing someone's never easy. I've lost some really close people to me this year as well, and it's terrible. I'm glad he got to come out and be the warrior that he is. This is his outlet, right? So, like Cormier said, it's my job to not care, and my job is to win. My job is to go out there and give my best performance, and that's all I was.
It was hard to watch the whole thing, right? You know what I mean? I'm glad Anthony tried to honor his friend and coach in that way.
You can get hurt doing that, bro.
Absolutely. And look, we'd already sort of thrown around in question, like, should this be it for Anthony Smith? He does seem to have a really good burgeoning podcast, TV anchor, TV analyst career going. But this is his 21st pro loss too. Like this guy's been fight. This guy's got 60-something pro fights, right?
This guy has been a survivor in this game. He rescued his career. I mean, this guy was fighting at Victory Fighting.
Oh yeah,
in the middle of nowhere for a time, and then really kind of turned himself into a John Jones title contender.
Has an iron will, has a refusal to quit, right? I mean, we saw he kind of had a emotional breakdown in there. It was tough. It was tough to see. So for Reyes, it's a second straight stoppage win. It continues his sort of comeback story at 34. There's still some life for him to make a little bit of a run here in this division that's not that deep, right? A lot of aging warriors. I was happy to see for Dom, at least in that regard.
Yeah, I would agree. I
don't know how much value you put in the win, but it was,
he did his job.
Sure.
Good to see him get his hand raised because I'm sure he worked hard to do it. And that alone, I think, is a process you want to honor. But
All right.
Anthony Smith should retire.
We could almost talk about every fight on this card because there was a lot of things worth talking about. Chase Hooper at 25 at lightweight. Now, Rogan was making it seem like this guy's almost ready to fight for the title. Like they were playing up, and he has made a nice turnaround for how remedial his striking was in the beginning, and he's improving every aspect of his game. But are you looking at him as somebody who's put it together in time to really start stacking wins and making noise here?
I don't know how to answer that. I'm not going to say yes or no. I just feel this way. He's, 25 years old. His jiu-jitsu skills are fantastic. I think one thing we also have just really need to notice is how much more bulk he has.
Mm-hmm.
He's really filled out in his frame. To me, clock starts now. Like everything that came before this, I'm not saying it's irrelevant. That's not my point. But like you're asking bigger questions about how far can he go. We can't even start evaluating that until right about now.
Yeah, and he's not doing those looping helicopter punches. I mean, there's some sharp shots.
There's much sharper. Everything is much crisper. It's putting together. But like clock has just begun about what we can use as footage to be like, oh, this is something that we can figure out what he's going to look like at 28, 29, 30. It starts now. And so for that reason, you got to love the improvement.
Yeah.
You got to love how much less damage he takes. But he was fighting Clay Guida, who needs to retire at the same time. So that's no fault to Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper looked good. I want to be clear. He looked very good. But how far can he go? We're going to find out.
We do have a clip about a potential next fight for Chase Hooper. Let's see if this interests you.
You said you want an intriguing matchup next. I saw a couple of people online after your win suggest Jim Miller. What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't see why not. Jim's, honestly, I felt kind of the same way about Clay. It's like he's an older guy for sure, but he's still doing the damn thing. Like he's still in here going against these young guys, and he's still doing well. Like Jim's still out. He's still subbing guys. Like, and that'd be a good fight. Like if it wasn't on such a stacked card like this, I felt like me and Clay could have main card on a lot of events. But yeah, I mean, I think that'd be a fun one. Why not?
Love it.
Dude, if
Love
I
that
looked
idea.
and sounded like him but could fight like him, I'd talk shit at every bar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just get a guy to follow me on camera and then just put people's reactions on YouTube and make money.
All right, you got to shout out also Vicente Luque against Garimbo. He went in there and did the deep.
Dropped him with the right
I went to the
hand.
bathroom and came back and it was all over, dude.
Drops him with the right hand, locks up the anaconda, gator roll, finish. He is fucking nasty, dude. Vicente Luque, remember, he had a brain bleed situation.
Yes.
Thought his career was over, and he's still out there dropping people and then subbing them with his technique. I mean,
I'm just happy it wasn't Nick Diaz. I'm really happy.
yeah, that was probably good that they did not do that.
All right, Brian Battle gets a win in the catchweight fight caused by himself missing weight by more than 4 pounds, which seemed still unexplainable when he was asked about it by Rogan in the cage afterwards, and he was still doing the heel thing and calling the crowd on. The win over Randy Brown, who was streaking and moving on, I mean, it doesn't do a lot for us. It wasn't that great of a fight. It wasn't that great of a performance, but I feel like every part of his stock seemed to go down, even though he comes away with the win.
I thought Randy should have won, and Brian Battle missed weight, and then he did the heel thing on top of it. I mean, I guess the heel thing, it doesn't really matter because in the end, you're just trying to get a reaction in this game. Doesn't matter if it's negative or positive, but it was not confidence inspiring.
Yeah.
Am I missing something? It was not confidence inspiring.
And when Eric Anders beats up on Weidman, they're like, that's the best win of Eric Anders' career. It's like...
And then Eric gets on the mic and he's like, yeah, I'm not even looking for championship fights. I'm just looking for fun ones. Fair, which, by the way, fair play to him.
But like...
No. I actually prefer that. I actually am glad he's like...
I felt it was an insult to him to say that's his best win against like that version of Weidman. Like, come on.
Is that Eric Anders' best win? That's a good question.
I mean, it might be. Didn't he have the... Brandon Wise was trying to talk me into saying the head kick one should be.
So he's got he's got Jamie Pickett. He's got this Chris Weidman one. Kyle Dawkins has got one. Darren Stewart, the dentist. Gerald Meerschaert's a pretty good one. Split decision one he's got there.
Just in this circumstance, it was just.
Oh, he's got to win over Brendan Allen in LFA. That's his best win.
There you go. And also, Luke, Josh Van against Cody Durden. That fight was fun as heck, and he looked awesome.
Yo, did you not, Long Island Luke? How good did Josh Van look? Because I know he got fucked up one time playing too loose with it.
Yep.
He looked much better this time.
He looked great. That fight was awesome. If anyone didn't see that, definitely go back and watch that.
For sure. I love that. I love that reaction.
All right, we also have Dana, who was very salty in the post-fight presser, asked about Conor McGregor.
I want to talk about this for just a second.
Yeah.
Just before we move on.
Let's hear it.
Since the thing about Conor McGregor came down, any reaction that you have since the conviction in the civil court and the penalties he faced?
What do you mean? What's my reaction?
Do you have any comment about what his?
If I had a comment, I would have put it out already.
What about his status with the UFC? Is there any?
He hasn't been fighting here in I don't know how long.
But there's been, you announced him at 303. There's been talk he's going to fight.
Right.
I mean, does that impact him in any way, or?
Well, if he does fight, it'll be sometime next year.
Yeah.
We learned nothing. But hey, Iole was pushing, dude. He was.
Iole was the only one who did it. I mean, here's why this comment to me is so insane. It's like, what do you mean? What's my reaction? It's like Dana is in charge essentially of a publicly traded company. What the fuck do you think we're looking for a reaction for? Because this is a literally public-facing, publicly owned property for which Dana White is ostensibly, for lack of a better description, its manager. Why would we want to know where you do you think sexual assault is bad?
He's the most famous fighter in the sport's history. Of course, we're going to ask every time anything happens.
But also, but it's a relevant question. What is your company's stance on any number of things? And the answer is this, BC. The answer is the very bare minimum that capitalist forces will do in a worst-case scenario. Let me give you an example. Jerry Sandusky. Vince McMahon with this terrible lawsuit. And what was like. In other words, the only way that anything will ever happen to any bad actor is if the capitalist forces essentially quit on them in a worst-case scenario. And I know what folks might say, because I know there are folks who think, oh, well, McGregor's innocent. Hold on to that thought for just a second. Let's say you believe that. Let's say you believe he actually didn't do this. Whatever the court says, you don't believe it. You must understand that a policy where you're punting to the basement-level capitalist forces to be involved gives leeway to any other bad actor that you may or may not like to do almost, not anything, a ton of unethical shit. That is what that policy enables. And the last thing I'm going to say on this is, if this is the game that they want to play where the UFC wants the public to say that they don't have a relationship, the UFC does, to a fighter's misdeeds. That's what they're dealing with.
Oh, the famous, do you know how much Conor paid in legal fees? That's all the punishment.
But also, like, hey, whatever's happening in their private life, they're independent contractors, that's for them to deal with.
Yeah.
If that's the game that they want to play, okay, but then you don't get to tell us about all of their community work that they do. You don't get to tell us about how laudable they are as fathers or mothers. You don't get to tell us how great they are at
I feel like you're speaking directly to the Netflix documentary people that handled the Conor doc.
It's just, here's the thing. If you want to tell us that you don't take responsibility in any way or have any relationship to any misdeed that any of the fighters have, you don't get to parade how laudable they are on the other side and then ask us to accept that, because you also now have no relationship to that either.
I don't know if that was the thing that set Dana off, but did you see the rest of when people were asking him about Chrome Gracie's poor performance? They're asking him if Smith and Weidman should retire. And finally, he got to the point where he snapped on the media and was like, oh, you guys have his negative questions today. No one wants to talk about the positive. But it's also like the way that is set up, that's the only time people really get to talk to him, right? You know, so it's, you understand.
Also, I want to sort of correct something. I had said, someone asked me on Twitter, they were asking about the pre-fight press conference, and nobody asked Conor about anything, or nobody asked Dana about Conor. And someone asked me on Twitter, they were like, hey, do you think that the UFC told people not to ask? And let me just say I don't know what your experience is. Let me tell you what my experience is. Now, granted, I don't go to shows hardly at all anymore, but in all the time that I ever did go to shows, no one from UFC has ever even bothered to ask me something like that.
Yeah.
When there was other forms of controversy or whatever, it's never happened. So I found it kind of strange. But then Stephen Morocco found an example from 2018 when staff did ask media around the Greg Hardy situation to keep it just focused on the fights at that time. So I don't know if they did that at the pre-fight press conference. but there at least is some precedent for it.
Sure.
It's just nothing I've ever personally experienced.
All right, let's move it on to topic number 5, and that is what is going to be going down at UFC 312 Sydney, Australia. What is the date on that? March something?
Look it up here. Give me a second.
Sean Strickland is going to get the rematch in the main event, not Khamzat Chimaev against Dricus du Plessis. And in the co-main event, fired up, Zhang Weili will finally make the return 11 months after her fight at UFC 300 in April. And Tatiana Suarez, who has not fought since late 2023, has been in and out of eligibility in terms of her health and the lineup. We're finally going to get that. But first and foremost, on the main event, Luke, first of all, these are two, in my opinion, very good fights. I'm excited about it. Let's go, UFC 312. But is that the right opponent, considering Sean Strickland is fresh off of a split decision win over Paulo Costa, and Khamzat Chimaev just ran through Robert Whittaker?
Let me first say, I know no one is ever allowed to be surprised on the internet anymore. I was surprised a little bit by this. Not crazy, but
Are you surprised the way they released it, which was like between fights on the UFC broadcast when they showed Suarez in the crowd, and then they put underneath that she's going to be fighting Weili, and then they come back and they're like, oh yeah, breaking news, DDP versus Strickland 2.
Yeah, I suppose that too. But I thought after what Khamzat did to Whittaker, and given that it's a fresh matchup and all the trash talk and everything else, maybe there were visa issues related to getting into Australia. Who the fuck knows? You can never really tell this stuff.
It has to be the answer, right?
It might be, because here's what we know. You know this as well as I do. Historically speaking, sitting on a title shot and waiting almost never pays off. They just don't like that. They like guys who stay active. Now, granted, Sean had done them a number of favors in taking a bunch of fights, so maybe they felt like they owed him one on the other end. But like, if you're just looking, he had the fight with DDP, which was close. I thought DDP did it in real time, and then afterwards I thought Sean won. He gets the rebound against Paulo Costa, which is not much of a rebound. It wasn't a great fight. And then he gets back here, and you're like, dude, Khamzat, okay, he's got his problems, but then he goes in there against Whittaker and absolutely obliterated. I mean, he rearranged Whittaker's face. And you thought, I thought that's going to be it. This is the guy. So if it's not because of either calendar planning or where this guy can get into based on his real world allegiances.
Yeah, does he have a health setback that we don't know about?
No, I wonder if the Kadyrov stuff extends far beyond the United States in terms of being a problem.
But they don't want to say that publicly, right?
Right. Well,
because they're trying to get...
Once again, the only civilizing force in the industry is what basement level capitalism will do for you. That's it. That's
Long
the
Island
only...
Luke, is this the topic that got Dana pissed off at the post-fight press conference? Because he was also salty about when people were like, why is it not Chimaev?
He got pissed off at Jose Youngs about asking about Chrome Gracie's performance. And then he got heated too. And it was the kind of thing where it's like, I think you're onto something where it's Khamzat can't get into Australia or something, because Dana normally would be like, Strickland's the guy. What do you mean? Khamzat doesn't deserve, he'd up the guy. Instead, he was like, of course we tried to make this with Khamzat, like pissed off about it.
I'll just say this. I don't feel super strongly about it for two reasons. One, Strickland's got a case that he won the first fight.
It was a very close fight, yes.
He's got a case that he won the first fight, and I think also the second fight could be somewhat, I won't say meaningfully different, but different enough for DDP to be kind of an interesting chess battle.
Sure.
I am surprised. Correct me if I'm wrong, Long Island Luke. Does Australia have different rules about speech, about what can be criminalized and what can't be? Because I do recall the first time Sean Strickland went down there were a lot of folks, including in the Australian government, who were really upset with some of the stuff he had said. And I'm not here to like parse it, just as like a risk that you run if you're bringing that guy back to the same area.
Yeah.
Is there anything to that?
I'm honestly not the person to ask. I have no idea.
I mean, ask your father.
He's
right?
only got a dad.
I'll ask him.
There. Yeah. All right. Well,
Well, look, it's going to be a great fight, but I can sympathize with Dana's tone if they did try and they couldn't right now, because with Chimaev's inconsistencies with his health and his schedule, if you get the window, you got to make the fight because he's championship ready. The dude's ready to jump through our screen. EDP versus Chimaev would have been sick right now.
Yes.
But I do like this fight. But I love the co-main, dude. Are you getting moved on that? Same thing with Suarez. It's like you don't know when the calendar is going to arrive where she's healthy at the right time. The right time is now then.
So correct me if I'm wrong. She was supposed to fight Virna Jandiroba.
Yes.
And that fight fell through. And there was another fight she was supposed to have.
And there was a weird thing where she where someone on Twitter said she was hurt, and she was like, "Where'd you get that rumor? That's not true." And then the next day, the UFC announced that she's hurt.
And then that fight fell through, and you're like, okay, well, she's still trying to build back as a contender, and then she just gets the fight. So yes, she was supposed to fight Virna Jandiroba, as well as she was scheduled to fight Amanda Lemos, and then she had to withdraw and then was replaced by Mackenzie Dern. So she's had the Lemos fight as well as the Jandiroba fight, where we were supposed to get a better look at exactly where she was. I have to tell you, though, you might think, well, God, it's fucking cold in here.
It's
Jesus.
cold as shit in here.
It's so fucking cold in here.
Ken wants to see our nipples, I think.
Ken, you want to see our nipples? The only thing that stands out to me about this is, here's my reading on it. They've been trying to move her up, trying to move her up, trying to move her up. They're like, you know what? Fuck it. Just put her to the front of the line. The clock's ticking.
Yeah.
If we don't give her a title shot now, her health might fail us before she even gets a shot to get up there.
She's 33 years old, but undefeated and dominant.
So they just said, fuck it. Forget the other contenders. Just get to the front of the queue. And to your point, BC, as a fight, I like it.
I love it.
I like it.
I love it. Look, my beloved 115 division, not as deep as it used to be, but this is the best matchup you can make. Rose ain't here. That's the best matchup you can make. So let's see it. I do think we have a Strickland video we can throw to here about his comments. Because did you see that tweet first from Khamzat that showed a picture of himself? He wrote at Strickland. It was a picture of himself with a large assault rifle in his hands.
Yes.
And then Strickland says, "I love how Khamzat will try to talk shit to me, bro. You're not a man. Character level fucking dog shit. Crypto scams, hoard yourself out to Kadyrov for cars, fled to the Middle East when the pimp hand got too strong. Stay in your lane, Swedish man." All right, so Strickland already planting the seeds if he can get the title from DDP, and if we don't need an immediate trilogy.
By the way, he went on to say other things. Also, the three-way trash talk between DDP, Chimaev, and Sean Strickland is also pretty good.
Yes.
Because then DDP got on Twitter and was like, the first one they called a robbery, the second one they're going to call attempted murder. I was like, oh, shit.
Dude, this middleweight division's fun right now. At the top level, very, very, very fun.
Well, that was the thing. That's why you kind of thought Khamzat was going to introduce some electricity into it and, like, you know, shake up the established order or things. And then they went back to the well with the fight they had before. I didn't love the first fight. I didn't hate the first fight. I thought it was somewhat intriguing.
It was a technical thriller.
Thriller's doing a lot of heavy lifting there. Technical, yes. And I think a totally fine fight. I'm not, oh, it was terrible. No, it was absolutely not terrible. That's totally not the case. But it wasn't like, dude, I mean, Sean has a way of making every fight trench warfare.
Yes.
That's a tough thing.
Yes.
He just defines it. Maybe he loses the trench warfare battle, but it's still trench warfare. Yeah, I don't know.
All right, in just a few minutes, Maycee Barber will join the program, but those are our 5 topics. And before we welcome our special guest and UFC women's flyweight contender, we have your questions every Sunday night at Morning Kombat on X, on the Instagram. You can chime in, and we'll address them, but they better be good in your name. Your handle better not be like at inmate 45678.
Yeah, at booty eater 69.
This is DMs from Donks. All right, let's see what Rick Rickersons we have here. The first one is from is_he. Will Bilal Muhammad's pace, cardio, and wrestling be too much for Shavkat to handle over 5 rounds? That's a direct question, Luke.
I think it absolutely can be. I think, put it back out, let me see.
But you're hoping that this man was MCL'd. You were hoping that that the next time we see him, it's full power, 100%, full strength Shavkat.
Yes, but this is what I mean. If he's got injuries, I'm not interested in seeing him compete again. If he's gonna, again, he didn't say it, but if it's going to leak out later, it's like, oh, you know, he had his fucking ball sack amputated. And I'm gonna be like, well, you know, 3 needles to the back. Brian Campbell still shows up and does the show. You know what I mean?
Like, it took my manhood, but not my soul. You know. Yeah.
I'm just trying to point out, I'm not interested in seeing, you know, hey, this is 60% Shavkat.
Yes.
Get the fuck out of here. Like, none of them are ever 100%. Give me 90% or give me nothing. How about that?
Give me liberty or give me freedom and death and something like that.
Also, Danny Rube, answer your text messages.
This second one's from at Mike Harinishin 1995. Do you think that the UFC should pull back on the 5-round co-mains? They feel pretty underwhelming and often unnecessary. This feels like a minority opinion, right?
I don't agree with it at all.
Okay.
I love 5-round co-main events.
Well, look, I wonder if there's a compromise to be made here. If a fight is involving 2 highly ranked guys, and especially if they have yet to fight 5 rounds in their career, then a 5-round non-title, highly contending fight is perfect because we find out who's ready and who's not for the title level. But what if it is a co-main event that doesn't demand that? Should we automatically put it on there, or should it only be for the exact type of fights like we saw with Shavkat versus Garry?
If you have two guys or two ladies in your co-main event and they're not fighting for something approximating number one contender, and you wanted to go 3 rounds, I don't hate that.
Like, not fight night co-main shouldn't be 5 rounds.
Depending. I mean, Noche UFC, the first one was a fight night. So I don't have a problem with the co-main on something like that being for 5 rounds. But just to do it, I don't know what the point of that would be.
Yeah.
But this one clearly needed to be 5 rounds. Rakhmonov and Garry would have been a travesty at 3.
Yeah.
And by the way, think about how much you learn more in the 4th and the 5th. I mean, Rakhmonov would have won either way because he was up 2-1, I think, after 3, right? That's how I had it, 2-1. So he would have won either way. But look what you learned in the 4th about Rakhmonov. Look what you learned in the 5th about Garry. Like, I'm very glad that they went to this.
The thing is, if you've got a loaded 15-fight card on a big pay-per-view and you've got, 3 title fights or 2 title fights and a 5-rounder, because sometimes it happens on the really, really big juiced-up cards, dude, you're going to go super late into the night. I mean, that main event didn't start till 1 a.m. Eastern anyway on Saturday night. For all the shit that Dana gives boxing for having bad pacing, and they do, that boxing has terribly bad pacing. These UFC ones, do they need to be that late?
You can get rid of a few power slap ads, and you can tighten that up a little bit, I think.
What do you do? Start earlier, promote less fights? What's the deal here?
Again, I lived through the very, 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 very brief era where they moved the pay-per-views back to 9 p.m. They claim to not like the results that they got.
I love the results.
I don't know what the metrics are. I have no way of knowing, but I fucking love it.
I'm
when they
old
did that.
as shit. Let's go to number 3. This is from @It's Not Cage Fighting. Then what is it? Okay. Which 3 Ryzen fighters would you most like to see in the UFC next? Now, who's this atomweight that somebody asked Dana about, who's like the best in the world, and Dana agreed in the post-fight presser that this person could.
I did not hear that.
And this person tweeted at a bunch today to support that.
Oh,
that this person
Ren
could,
something?
Yeah, that Dana
Ren.
said that's the type of person you would build like the division around if they did start that. Long Island Luke, you don't know anything about this person, right?
Ren Hiramoto?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
You know much about this gentleman?
I would be pretending if I did.
This is men's. This is men's
Yeah.
atomweight.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you think there should be women's atomweight?
I do. I do actually believe
So
that.
instead of 145, let's have 105?
That's where all the talent is. That's when Invicta has an atomweight championship. Like, absolutely, that's where all the dude. We've known from MMA in Japan in the early 2000s that was the case. I know you disrespect Megumi Fujii, but
did you see that clip from the UFC weigh-in show where Laura Senko read out her accomplishments and Dan Hellie admitted that he doesn't know anything about her either?
Yeah, but shouts to Dan Hellie, who's a DC sports legend. I'm not going to sit here and besmirch the name of a guy who gave me a lot of great nights on NBC4 along with Lindsay Zarniak.
I didn't follow Lindsay Zarniak from SportsCenter.
Lindsay Zarniak got her start on the exact same channel as Dan Hellie. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So, Luke, are there any other Ryzen fighters that you would like the UFC? Because do you agree with what people are saying that because the UFC actually broadcast Ryzen highlights and because they called Asakura on the screen, former Ryzen champion, do you think this is a pipeline that Saki, Karaba, and Dana, who have been close, are opening?
I hope. I think it's good for Ryzen, by the way, to get any kind of talent sharing if that's the way they can go. I don't know what Dana's going to do in that regard because he really resented how talent sharing with Pride went, and sending Chuck over there and not getting Vanderlei was really a thorn in his side. But we're in a different era, and I feel like, dude, promoters working together is what MMA needs more of, not less. So any version of
Are you talking about Turkey being the middleman between Don Davis and Dana White to make John versus Francis?
Well, there's things that, I mean, unless Jesus can come back and turn water into wine, there's a limit on what we can do in the natural world. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, that's interesting. I do believe there is a lot of talent in Ryzen. Would you agree with that?
Yes, of a certain kind of weight class range, but yes, of course.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, you're not going to find your next best middleweight there, but you'll definitely find some guys at 135 pounds or give it, around that who are going to be real good. Mm-hmm.
Let's go to number 4. This is from @Jimmy_Reed. Over under 5.5 on the number of current champions who will hold on to their belts at this time.
Let's go through it
next year.
All
I
right,
believe he's talking about the UFC.
Yes, so let's go through it. Ready? Now, part of this, like John Jones could end up winning against Aspinall if they make the fight, but then retiring anyway. So I don't know how that would qualify, but let's go through it here. Very good. Pantoja.
I mean, I would have said no coming into this fight, and now I'm like...
Now I'm going to say yes, although he's going to be 35 in April, so we're right around
Brazilians built differently, asterisk. Sorry.
Okay. Merab. Fuck no.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, sorry, Merab. Ilya.
Unless he moves up and
No, but at
vacates.
45. At 45.
Yeah. He'll still be the
Okay.
champion.
Islam.
I'm waiting for him to just shock us after a win by saying, thank you, had a great run here. Now I need to let Usman Nurmagomedov come over here. I'm going up to middleweight right now. Or
I'm going to say
welterweight,
say he stays champ.
You say he stays champ.
Yeah.
All right.
Bilal.
No.
Me neither. Dricus. That's the interesting one.
Right now, I'll say yes.
Ooh.
Right now, I'll say yes.
I'm going to say no. So
I'm adding in the factor that Chimaev isn't consistent in terms of showing up.
Yeah.
Right?
Where are you at?
I'm gonna say yes because he's gonna beat Strickland and then maybe doesn't get another title till next year.
Hold on. If he beats Strickland, do you think he beats Chimaev?
I didn't say that, but like we said, with Chimaev's health and travel issues, they might not book it.
Poatan. Now before you say, oh yeah, it would be Poatan. Ankalaev is a donk, but he can win that fight. I think we all agree he can win it.
I think Poatan will still be the champion.
All right, same. And then the other one about Jones is the interesting one. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say Aspinall.
I'll agree with you. So where are we, over and under?
I think how about the it was 5.5. I think we found 5.
I mean, there's a lot of turnover in this era.
Zhang Weili, I don't think will be champion by the end of the year. Valentina Shevchenko, I don't think will be champion by the end of the year. And then Pena, it's a harder one to say. I know Kayla probably beats her.
That's right.
So you definitely get some significant turnover.
Interesting stuff. Our final DMs from the Diggities will come to us from @VonBeckCal. And this person says, if you could get one gift from Dana this Christmas, Luke, if you could fall in on those 16 days of Christmas that Dana White is doing for the UFC fans, what would it be and why?
One Christmas gift.
From Dana White, what would it be? An Elk Boys bag? I mean, I wouldn't turn down $250K in a paper bag, right?
I'd take $250K. One gift from Dana. Okay. I hate the framing of the question because it turns him into this avuncular figure that I don't think is an appropriate framing. But if we're going to go with the game, this one's easy for me. John Jones, Tom Aspinall. John Jones, Tom Aspinall. Doesn't have to be in the UK, all that crazy ass shit. No, you can make it in New York. You can make it in Vegas. Just make it anywhere around this area. Title unification. Pay-per-view main event. And I will be happy in 2025. That's the gift
I
that I
still
want.
think they can make that happen. I'm still
You still
over
want that?
50% confident that it happens.
That's pretty confident.
I would want to take the money, the resources, and the time that they put into Power Slap, which seems to still be aggressive, and throw it all into boxing and take your swing. And I think they might. You know, when you hear Dana talk, and the rumors of a Turkey partnership, a lot of things. Whatever it's going to be, take your swing. We've been hearing about this for years. I want to see what he can do. I want to see what role he can play. Let's go. Take your swing. Go all in.
Here's my hope. Instead of doing Power Slap, take all the money that they use for that and put it towards a better cause by setting it on fire. Is really what I hope they do.
That's fair.
Just live stream, like, you know, this Power Slap event cost $400,000. Just create a YouTube channel where you take $400,000 and you set it on fire as a way to like truly entertain us and make valuable use of that, or much more valuable use anyway of that time.
Well, those were the DMs from Donks. Thank you for playing. Slide back in next week, okay, for next Monday's episode. Luke, we have a couple more minutes before our guest joins.
Yep.
Before we get into that shiat. I mean, if I urinated right now, would you be very mad at me?
Now, you're saying urinate on your pants? Or
No,
what do you mean?
just like, run to the no shit bathroom.
Can I tell you that I don't know who it was in the office, so I went to I didn't use this restroom. I used the one in the back. You know, you have to punch the code in.
Which 50% of the time, no one's taking a dump in
Okay,
there.
so two things were happened to me, and they were both, I needed a trigger warning.
You saw George Michael in the men's room?
No, but one guy in the far stall, I didn't see who it was. He was making noises with his anus that sounded like the T-Rex roaring in Jurassic Park.
No, Nadir's looking at you. Do you think he's...
It was not... Nadir goes like this. No, it was not Nadir. And then a guy, while I'm hearing velociraptors scream in the corner, there was a gentleman who stood next to me who unzipped his pants and did this number. Now, these are like...
Wait, what number is this?
No, I'm in the stand-up stall.
The number 6 and 9 put together? What number you got for me?
I'm in the stand-up stall. The guy gets next to me, and he does this number. He unzips his pants and goes... And then audibly farts.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like,
but that's like a 80s old guy move to just walk in and be like, oh, like finally we're away from the women.
So we got the Velociraptor in the corner,
Yeah,
and then we've got
yeah.
old man at the gym audibly farting next to me at the urinal. I needed to get out of there as soon as I
You
possibly
should have just triple decked it Joseph A. Banks style and just been like, you want a war? I'll give you a war. All right?
I should have done what Randy Quaid did in the bowling movie. What was the bowling movie? With
Kingpin.
Kingpin, where he just took a dump in the urinal.
Okay, that's disgusting. Hey, on that note, why don't we welcome our fantastic guest this week, one of the top women's flyweight contenders in the UFC. What the future? The future is now.
Just 26.
The future's now. Let's bring in Maycee Barber on the program. Maycee, welcome to
There she
Morning
is.
Kombat. Great to see you. We are itching to see you back in action. How's everything going?
I know, I can't wait. Well, first of all, you guys introed me on like the most random conversation that I got to walk into. I was like, what are they talking about?
We didn't mean it personally. I blame the producer. He was like, just talk about anything for 5 minutes. So I talked about anything.
Oh boy, this is
That
the kind
was
of show.
definitely anything. I was like, what are they introing? Wow. It's all good. Okay. But yeah,
let's
no,
talk-
I'm excited
yeah.
to be back.
Let's talk about your status. We thought you were coming back in
July.
in July over the summer, and you had a setback. How's everything going with your health, and when could we see you back in there?
Everything's going great now. It has been a long journey. I was so bummed when first of all, I was so excited to fight Rose, because not only was I fighting Rose, but I was also fighting in Denver where I made my UFC debut. So for me, it was my first main event. It was a very huge opportunity for me, and I was so excited. And then I was so devastated when I was told, hey, look, you're not gonna fight on this card, and you're obviously, the health is more important. So I was very devastated. But I have made a lot of progress coming forward, and I can't wait to be back.
This is great. Do you have a plan set in mind, a time frame?
Yeah, actually, I was just messaging with Mick, and Hunter called me as well. I'm hoping for April, honestly. I mean, I know it still is a little ways out, but for me, like, that's the timeline that I was given. And so originally I thought I was going to be until August of next year, but it's looking like more like April.
All right. Well, we can't wait to see you back. You're a big player in a division that suddenly, Maycee, has a ton going on for it. Big names. I feel like 3, 4, 5 women could be champion right now in terms of how stacked it is at the top. How would you assess this 125-pound division as we speak right now?
Yeah, the division has had a lot of changes, obviously. It's one of those where I am so frustrated with like wanting to be there. Like, I want to be there so bad because I know that, to be honest, like, I feel like I'm the best contender for being the champion, and I can't wait to get that shot and to have the title shot, because I feel like we've seen how Erin has matched up against, the top opponents. And I don't think that she's going to be up there. I mean, she's a great fighter, but she's not champion worthy. Manon is a great fighter as well. However, I don't think she has the champion capabilities as well. And then, we have the top. We have Alexa Grasso, who got her rematch. And then I feel like I just want to be there, like, I know for me, like, I have the most exciting fights. I have what it takes to be there, and I just want to get back there so I can have that belt.
All right, I want to go through some of these individual pieces, if I may. First things first, you were supposed to fight Rose on that July card. Obviously, it didn't work out. We hope to see you back in April. How did you think Rose looked more recently?
To be honest, when she fought Erin, I thought that was a boring fight, but I also thought that Rose won that fight. I thought that Rose won 3 of 5 rounds, and the judges obviously gave it to Erin, but I thought that was not fair to Rose, because I did think that Rose had done everything she needed to do to win that fight. So for me, I mean, I don't think that she looks as good as she has looked in the past. She used to be a really dominant champion. She used to be she still is a phenomenal fighter, but it's different now, and you can see that she's changed ever since she's been with different coaches. And there's just been a lot that's happened in her life, and I mean, she's getting older, so I just don't think she's the same fighter that she used to be. However, I do believe that she beat Erin, and that's what was tough to watch.
Let me follow up on that, because I get asked this question all the time, and folks are like, well, she is bouncing, or she has changed anyway. Bouncing is not quite a fair way to put it, but changing some of her coaching. When you're a fighter and you're looking at another fighter who has changed their coaching, and you could say, aha, this is why they fight differently, what would you point to specifically in the case of Rose that would lead you to believe that the coaching change itself is playing a big role in how she's fighting?
I mean, it really depends, because there's fighters like myself who have bounced around a lot. You know, I've been known as someone who goes from gym to gym and coach to coach. And that's something that a lot of people have talked about with me. However, like with Rose, I mean, she didn't do that before. Like, she had Trevor Whitman as her coach for the longest time. And I think that played a huge advantage in her career. You know, Trevor is a phenomenal coach. And from what I picked up, you know, she should have stayed with Trevor. And now that she's not with him, whatever the circumstances are, like however that came about, she's never been the same ever since.
Okay, let's talk about the top of that division for a second. I would love to get your perspective. This blew my mind. Noche UFC, Valentina Shevchenko defeats Alexa Grasso, and over the course of their rivalry, Grasso's wrestling somehow got worse. How is that possible? How did it regress to the point where Shevchenko was just able to use that as like the sole means of winning in a 5-round contest?
I mean, did Grasso's wrestling get worse, or did Valentina's get that much better? You know, like it's a tough thing to answer, because I don't know. You know, you don't know what happens in other people's camps. You don't know whether injuries play a part. There's a huge thing to be said for, I mean, everyone talks about it, mentality in a fight. And the whole fight game is a mind game. So you don't know what has gone on, you know, whether she might have been training and then it would have, you know, maybe she didn't have a lot of success in her wrestling in terms of training, and she didn't have as much confidence in it going into the fight. Maybe Valentina did just, you know, get that much sharper in her wrestling, and there's a lot to be said for all of that. So, I mean, for me to go and say, Alexa Grasso's wrestling got worse, like, we don't know what played a part in that. But I mean, I could tell you for sure, like, I have seen fighters where if you don't ever find success in the gym, it's really hard for you to take that and go into a fight and be confident in it. And that's when the mentality turns into a big factor as well.
Well, Shevchenko, the all-time great, the legend, the champion, once again, it appears, although we haven't heard, that if I'm planning out her future, number 2, Manon Fiorot seems to be the most deserving of that next title shot. Do you agree? And how would you see that fight going down?
You know, I actually was talking about a fight offer against Manon, and then I was also told that she does not want to fight unless it's for the belt. So there's a lot of things that are going back and forth in that division with, you know, I do feel like as far as a fighter who has put in the fights and who has beat the people she needs to beat and put herself up there, I do believe that Manon is the best contender for that next title shot. You know, and it could be a good fight, you know, to see Valentina in her fight, and then me get to get the winner of that, and then see who I get to fight for the belt. But I do think that she, like, right now as it stands, is the best next candidate for the title shot.
Well, you're currently the number 4 ranked women's flyweight. You're riding a 6-fight win streak. When you look back to the 2 losses that at the time sort of slowed your momentum, when we thought you really were on pace to become the youngest UFC champion, I know that was a big goal of yours. Do you look back at those losses, though, as a gift? And, you know, does that work in hindsight now? Did you grow extensively from that experience?
I do. You know, the things that I've learned, I mean, obviously, like, the first loss that I had, to be honest, like, I felt like I had one of the best camps of my life. At the time I was training at Rufus Sport, and I had a great camp. I had an amazing weight cut, and I was super confident going into that fight. And I remember actually talking to a few people, and one of those was actually James Krause. And I was like, because I used to ask him a lot of opinions on my fights and matchups and everything. And I asked him, and he was like, you know, you win this fight 10 10 out of 10 times, the only time you would ever lose this fight is if you had a freak accident and you got injured and you couldn't continue. And that was maybe like an hour before the fight. And then I went out and I was like an hour before I went to the fight. Obviously I went out and I fought and I tore my ACL. And I think the things that I took away from that was I showed that no matter what, like if I get hurt, if I get obviously severely injured, like I'm going to keep going and I'm going to keep pushing, and I'm not just going to keep pushing and try to survive. I'm going to try to keep winning. You know, like I feel like I showed a lot of people and my coaches and my own family and like myself, you know, like the thing that I have inside me, which is a heart. And coming off of that loss, like it was really hard to be sad about, oh, I didn't do enough. You know, what I really took away with that and the sadness that I had was, damn it, I lost. And I know that I could have won that fight and had circumstances been different. And also I can't fix it for a whole nother year. Like I was looking at going into a surgery and facing a whole year layoff of like rehabbing an ACL and going through that process with that feeling of like, wow, I really want to just go out there and show like what I know I could have done. And actually when I got offered that, like I asked to go and fight her again, and she turned it down. Obviously it was her retirement fight. She wanted to win. And which actually, I don't know if that worked in her favor because she fought Casey O'Neill and didn't win. But then when I fought Alexa, the thing that I took away from that was, you know, obviously I had another loss that I had come off of, and I really learned in that camp specifically and in that fight how important the mentality is, how important it is who you have around you, who you have coaching you, who you have speaking into your life. Because again, no excuses. When I fought Alexa, like I went in there, if I go into a fight, I know I'm like, look, I'm ready to fight and I'm going to fight and I'm going to win. However, like she was better that day. But for me, I learned, you know, the coaching that I had at the time was not the camp that I needed to be with. I was actually learning a completely different style than what I should have learned. And it was not me at all. You know, it was someone who wanted to be more of a counter fighter, and I'm not a counter fighter. I'm a pressure fighter, and I'm known for brawls and I'm known for pushing the pace. And that's what I feel like, you know, I showed that in the third round when I pushed the pace and I won that third round from being myself. But I really had to get out of that other style that I had been working on and trying to like be this person that I wasn't. You know, and I dealt a lot with like a lot of external things that I learned. You know, you can't let outside factors come into your mentality, because if you do, it's going to cost you a lot. And I lost that fight, and that was a bitter taste in my mouth because I truly did lose that fight. And even though I won the third round, you know, I got to learn, you know, I need to be who I need to be for me. And when I'm not, I have a lot of success.
Well, there were some close decision wins to start the 6-fight win streak. Was there a point where you felt like you did fully get your mojo back, where you were allowed to sort of release the dog again and you felt comfortable in that dominant attack style that you performed so well?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, coming off of Alexa Grasso, like I had a different style and I had a lot of external things that I allowed into my life and influenced my career. And then I tried to shift that. You know, I realized in that third round I needed to shift it, and then I carried that into the next fight. And the next fight was a little bit better. Still way closer than I had wanted it to be. The next fight was even just like that. You know, it was a little bit better, but still close. And I feel like I really started to feel that, you know, after like 2 fights after that, you know, and then when I fought Jessica when I fought Montana, and then obviously when I fought
Hebos.
Yes, Amanda. When I fought Amanda, I felt that a lot. You know, I was like, this is me. This is who I was meant to be. This is what God created me to do. And like, this is like the person that I am. And I like finally got to feel that again, and it felt great, you know, and then I got to carry that on into the fight with Caitlin. And obviously, you know, like the higher up I go in the division, the tougher the girls are going to get. And so I just want to make sure that no matter what, like I'm always going out there with the true me and the 100% Maycee Barber that I have. Because I believe that when I do that, I'm unstoppable.
Let me follow up if I can on Erin Blanchfield. Give me, imagine we've never seen her fight before. Give me the Maycee Barber scouting report.
The scouting report would be She's a solid wrestler and grappler, and her striking is very low level. She makes it work for her in certain fights. I would say that she does get success in certain fights with it because she's a pressure fighter, very similar to, like, she likes to pressure and she likes to be aggressive, which is what gets people down to the ground. And obviously that's where she has most of her success. But if you watch her, like, her striking is it's not clean. She doesn't have good defense, and against the right fighters, like, she's going to get hurt. You know, we did see that with Man, who was a good striker. Against a good striker, Erin Blanchfield's not going to have very much success at all. And then also, you know, she's not an exciting fighter. She's not someone that you're like, oh, I have to watch this fight. You don't see a lot of brawls with her. You don't see a lot of devastating wins. You just see someone who goes out and can win sometimes and has made it pretty far for herself because of that, you know. But she's not someone that's like, oh, this is a devastating fighter.
Okay, same exercise, but this time for Manon Fiorot.
For Manon, I would say that she's a very well-rounded fighter. Her striking is good. She's long. Her striking isn't just good. It's really good. She's done really well with it. I feel like she has more success in the stand-up and the strikes, which then, you know, you don't see a whole lot of wrestling and ground game from her, but her whole game as a whole is well-rounded. And her technique is championship level. However, I feel as though the rest of her, because being a champion isn't just about just fighting. Like, you can be a champion and just fight, and to be honest, you're a boring champion. So she doesn't have like that full well-rounded champion of a fighter. However, her fighting style is championship level.
Okay, so then if Shevchenko fights Fiorot, give me the Maycee Barber prediction. How does that one look, and if you have a strong feeling about who might win?
I think Fiorot's tough. I honestly could see that going to a decision. I'm trying to think. Like, I mean, obviously we've seen that Valentina has knockout power. I don't know if we have seen Manon have knockout power. I feel like a lot of her fights have gone to decisions. And so I just think, you know, but she's also tough. Like, I don't know if she's been put away too many times either. So if someone was to catch, I think it's going to go to decision. I think Valentina's on her way out. Like, I think she's older. And she's just also not the same fighter that she used to be. She's just kind of getting a little bit old for where she's at. So I think it's going to go to the decision.
Interesting stuff right there. How's the Maycee Barber brand doing right now? I see you with a lot of different sponsorships. I see you on some, you know, viral crossovers with Demi Bagby on the internet. How's life as Maycee Barber these days?
It's great. You know, I'm trying to maximize and take advantage of this off time. You know, like, whenever I'm out and whenever I'm not able to fight, obviously the number one thing is I want to be back in the gym and I want to be training. When I'm not able to do that, I know that I have to be as proactive as possible because this career is very short. And I need to build it up. So I want people to want to watch. I want people to want to pay attention. So I've tried to do everything I can to stay busy and to create lifelong partnerships that aren't just going to be with me through my fighting career, but are going to be with me through life. And through that, I have met Demi, and she has been amazing. She's helped me a lot. And she's doing great things and I'm doing great things. So for us to come together and collab has been really incredible. So yeah, I mean, honestly, Maycee Barber is blessed and looking forward to the future.
All right. If illnesses, injuries, time off, all that's behind us, let's close with this. Map out a perfect 2025 for us. How does Maycee Barber go from the number 4 ranking to where your goal has always been, championship level here?
The perfect path, if I was to have every fight that I would want right now, I mean, obviously I talked about having a fight with Manon. I would love to have at least one fight to come back, obviously, off my layoff. And then I want the belt. I want to have the belt by the end of 2025.
Oh, there it is. Speak. What is it? Speak. Receive.
I don't want to
believe
have the belt. I'm going to have that belt.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Maycee Barber in the house. We appreciate your time so much. Best of luck getting back out there into the cage. We're looking forward to it. We're ready.
Maycee.
Thank you, guys.
Good stuff right there. You're the number 4 women's flyweight contender, Maycee Barber. Luke, there's only one other thing we have to do to close the show.
BC's feces.
I mean, I should have apologized again to Maycee that we transitioned her in on a feces conversation, right?
Listen, you came on Morning Kombat. I mean,
you're like,
what are you expecting?
You're like, the quality control was on you in that regard. I scoured the globe, the internet, actually, yesterday. You know what I do on Sundays, right? That's what I do. I've got the highs and lows, the good, the bad, the ugly, the in-between, people getting hurt. Hey, have you seen this shit? Hoo-ah! There we go. Hey, UFC 310 was in Las Vegas this weekend, and Luke, Shavkat literally tore Ian Garry a new ass. Have you ever seen this wardrobe malfunction before? Did that come from the cage?
I don't know what the hell. I think he talked about it. I missed it, but yeah, it was strange.
That was strange. There you go with that. Conor McGregor, Luke, was he hasn't been in the news for good reasons, but he put out a audio reaction to Bilal Muhammad and the face-off with Shavkat.
The security doesn't know he's the champ. Look at the state of this cunt. The security doesn't know he's the champ. I'm not surprised, motherfucker. Oh, mate. He is an asshole, I think. I'm excited for...
We
can go get silver, please.
I mean, if you were PR for him, would you be...
His attorneys had to deal with some of the stuff he posted about the trial afterwards. Judge didn't rule yet, but they might hold him in contempt for it.
All right, we mentioned Alexander Volkov had the same hair of any 19-year-old girl who went to the Caribbean for the first time, Luke. Wow, this was a decision.
I like how you put your own tweets in, have you seen this shit? But
you're saying that Shaq Majori style?
That's a good point. He did the old Shaq Majori. He looks like the worst thing I've ever seen. I mean,
okay, so you're saying he actually deserves the loss based on the hair choice?
I'm not going that far, but it's like, I get that they do the cornrow thing because it's functional, right? It keeps the hair out of your face.
Yes.
And
they used to comb his hair in the corner.
Yeah,
Adrian
this
Broner
is better than that, but then you just end up looking like Malibu's Most Wanted.
Yeah,
you know
there you go. Nate Diaz was back through his cornering of Kron Gracie, which meant, what does Nate Diaz do? He gets into water bottle throwing wars backstage, this time with Islam.
Hold up, man.
Is this planting seed?
We're all above 30 and now headed towards 40 in some of these cases. What are we doing here?
This is planting a seed for him to get a lightweight title shot. That's what it is.
Can't say no to that, but
could he make lightweight one more time?
For a title fight? Probably could.
Okay, that's interesting.
I'm a little over the bottle throwing stuff.
Speaking of Kron Gracie, you know who sent him to hell on Twitter? Cesar Gracie.
Caesar? Never a good idea to pull guard in MMA like that. Never.
Right?
Yeah, you want to talk about a guy who, I believe Gracie's best win, Kron, is over Tetsuya Kawajiri, which is like a really good win. I don't know what dude, you realize like there's Neiman Gracie still out there, but like with the exception of him and Kron, like the Gracies are done as a fighting force.
As Bryce said, he's a Gracie.
He's a Gracie. Y'all better put some respect on that Gracie.
Bryce Mitchell's back with me. I'm back with Bryce Mitchell. Right?
He's a loon, but a very good fighter.
Could we get him on the show?
I would only do it in studio.
Bryce, if you're listening out there, he's friends with Big Tuna, Ben Parrish, my guy.
Oh, we do like Ben Parrish.
We should get Big Tuna.
Both
on the
of
show.
them.
Oh my God, that'd be so much Arkansas.
They can sell
Unbelievable.
me milk and steak. How about that?
Nina Drama asked Asakura a dumb question and got an inappropriate answer. Are you ready?
What's the first thing you wash in the shower?
Oh.
Dick.
Okay. All right. Luke, we talked about...
What is the first thing you wash in the shower?
I guess I've never thought about that. My face. My face is the first thing I wash.
Yeah. With your ass?
Also, Luke, UFC 311 we got fired up for. Arman Tsarukyan was in Las Vegas to do the press conference for the rematch with Islam Makhachev, and he was also there to do one final meal before training camp. Did you see this?
Diet starts tomorrow.
God, that's savage right there. Do you think he ate the whole thing?
I would say the meal is a little excessive.
Would you dip your pelote in that sauce right there after he did?
My pelote?
Yes.
I would dip my pelote in the sauce, yes.
Would you say he's currently your third favorite fighter due to his Armenian background?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. There you go. There you go.
I mean, I'm going to grade him on a curve every time.
You're not worried about him not making weight after this feast?
No, I think
this fiesta. All right. Weird couple days for Merab Dvalishvili, right? Weird couple days?
He brings it on himself.
All right. He nearly came to blows with Umar backstage.
Once again.
Where? What I said?
Real question.
What you
Is
said? Why you disrespect?
Merab acting like a bitch?
I won't. What you can do? Why you disrespect? Why you disrespect me?
I like the heat, though, between them. I like it.
Come here.
Yeah, it's like, dude, everywhere Merab goes, he's getting into confrontations. The confrontation isn't following him. He's bringing the confrontation.
Okay. Well, then at the actual presser, him and Umar sounded like divorced biatches, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
It was interesting. I kind of liked it. Let's listen.
I don't care about you, Merab. Listen to me. Personal, okay? I don't listen to me, Merab.
Bad for you. I was always respectful for you, okay?
What I said bad about your country, about your national, about your personal. What I said? Nothing. Where? What I said?
Interesting between the two of them.
I have an update from Danny Rube
Yes.
about Shavkat Rakhmonov.
Oh, please.
All he is committing to is saying that they aren't sure of the full extent and they're going to get an MRI this week.
Good move. Good move. Let's
So
get
we'll
that
see.
going. Also, Luke, Merab did throw a zinger back at Umar during the presser. Did you see this?
Umar, you and Islam have shared so many memories together. I want to know, what's your best moment with him?
Islam, he
How
all the
about
time.
jacuzzi?
You can come. I was not there.
You can come.
Focus on your fight, Merab. Focus on your fight.
Okay.
Merab, I don't have
Okay, that was
nothing
funny.
for you. Don't look.
What do you think about Islam closing it with what do you say about the belt? Put some respect on it, or
Yeah, like act like a champion, basically. Yeah, I agree.
okay. Well,
I
then Merab, after cornering Aljo, as he was walking out, a fan aggressively grabbed Merab's arm, and it started this sequence, which led to one of his teammates throwing punches with the guy.
Ah.
Turns out, and Merab would tweet this out, that guy is a regular in the Dagestan camps.
Yeah, he is.
So he was a plant, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Once again, it is not hard to not get into a fist fight in public. It's
Okay.
actually, for the most part, not always, but it's for the most part very easy to not get into a fist fight.
Is it easy to get on a scooter and not fall?
Once again, context is important here.
What, are they white? Is that the question?
Well, are they 800 pounds?
Let's find out. Oh, this is a skateboard. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
he's going to bust his fucking teeth, right? Let's see.
Ooh, he's pulling it
Good
off.
job
right
not
now.
wearing a helmet, you fucking oaf.
Oh, no.
Bah!
Oh,
Oh,
no.
yeah.
Oh, no.
He's
It's
about to
Taco
take out
Tuesday.
Big Bertha.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
right into the coochie, too.
Oh,
wow. Look at them titties just crushed him.
Can I lingus? Yes, he
It's
can.
like, how did he
Luther.
die? He was crushed by a giant set of lunch lady titties. It was
I
terrible.
think he accidentally got sent to Pound Town. Would you agree? Let's go to the next clip.
The Edge, a one-way ticket to Pound Town.
What?
Out of the gutter. I went to Pound Town today. I went to Pound Town on the D. Pound Town on the Dirty D is another side. That is a lot of pounding, and it has some folks down there doing a double take, passing by this bait and tackle shop. There are some social media posts that maybe are taking it the wrong way. Maybe they get their mind out of the gutter. I don't know what to talk about. But there is an innocent explanation for it all. We used to always say, oh, we're going to Pound Town. You're pounding the jigs off the bottom. You're pounding the fish. Pound Town. For anyone who might be
Pounding
offended,
torta.
an open invitation to Pound
Yeah, I bet you pounded a couple of tortas in your life, huh?
All right, Luke, let's keep it going. You love when people film themselves at the gym. You love it.
I hate it. Oh, dude, you can cause real damage doing that.
Oh, you can also cause damage doing this in the layup line. Watch. Oh, clean up on, yeah, we're not playing today when that happens. Good Lord. Wow. Okay. Let's go to the Christmas cat, Luke. This is how Reggie Jackson acts, and he has no remorse.
I got a
Did that guy have it coming for how over the top that reaction
Listen,
was?
you bring those animals into the house. You know, you need to know what time it is.
All right, new segment alert. This one's called Would You Eat It? Are you ready, Luke? This one's called a burger dog. Would you eat it?
So far, yes.
Brilliant, right? Why we never thought about this.
Yeah, sure, I'd eat that. Yeah.
Long Island Luke, automatically.
It's a little like
100%. I'm making that later.
It's a little like circular meatloaf, but yes.
Okay, what about this 2-combo meal? Would you eat this?
Call me a veterinary assistant the way I'm about to put a couple dogs down.
Shout out to Market Basket with the 2-dog and fry deal for $2.99. I'd be all over that.
That is awesome.
All right, now let's go to the food competition. All you can eat here. The choice, mayo.
Coaches or drink it. And then, well, this is tonight.
Yeah,
this
you
is the
couldn't-
contest.
Look at far left.
You
He's
couldn't
going to
pay
work
me.
down there. He's not giving up. Look at this. He said the heck with it. Beard. Look at Beard in the middle.
Oh, wow. This is
what an
disgusting.
effort.
I like how it's a contest of nothing but whites.
Yeah. All right, let's go over to Grandma. She's got to get her cigs.
There's no cigarettes here.
Yep, Granny, that's just a new cigarette dispenser.
And how do I get to it?
Hold the bottom. Hold the bottom. Where's Vito? Yeah. And now lift hard.
Oh my God. Oh, you got a nice one.
All right, Abuela.
Oh, this is easy. Ooh, I need cigarettes all day long now. All day long. Every couple
That's
of
every
minutes.
grandmother in my town growing up.
Someone needs to euthanize that bitch.
Okay, all right. Luke, is this how you're going to celebrate Saryukian becoming UFC lightweight champion?
Yeah, I'm not going to call that great firearm safety.
Different cultures, Luke, different standards, all right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure this is I don't know what's happening here. That they're not all tackling him and then beating him within an inch of his life.
All right. I mean, there's children around. That's wild. Hey, let's go over to this weekend in boxing. In the BKFC, Luke, Justin Watson set a new combat sports record with a 2-second KO.
Bop.
Take that. It's over.
Put him right face first.
Damn.
With your butt in the air.
Also, in a DAZN main event, Richardson Hitchens took a split decision from Leon Paro in Puerto Rico to win a 140-pound title and then found out he wasn't the father. No, that was the joke from the tweet. I took it. But look, it was a very aggressive celebration, and I'm here for it. Shout out to Richardson Hitchens.
Good for him. World champion. He was calling people out on Twitter, too. I saw that afterwards.
Indeed. Let's go over to Manuel Navarrete arriving to the arena in classic style as all the fighters in the main and co-main did in this one in Phoenix. So look at that. Oh,
I don't know much about this kind of car culture, but I do like that car.
Oh, yeah.
With the hydraulics.
That's what I'm talking about.
This is what the gangster rappers would do in the 90s videos. You know what I'm talking about?
Love it, love it.
Navarrete. From the West Coast?
Oh, yeah. He would then go into the ring and score 3 knockdowns to finish Oscar Valdez in the rematch with somewhat ease, you would say. This was a left hook to the body to finish it.
Oh.
It's tough to see Valdez, the great warrior, just kind of run out of steam there.
He got overwhelmed.
He definitely did. So did Robeisy Ramirez, although now people might be changing their stories.
They were murdering him.
They were
on
murdering
Twitter.
him when we have the footage against Rafael Espinoza. This was a rematch of that incredible upset from last December.
He just says, I'm done.
He no-mossed. People were Tim Bradley, Joe Tess was aggressive on the announcing. It would turn out Carl Moretti of Top Rank would report that it was a broken orbital bone.
And not just a broken orbital on the outside, on the inside of the interocular pressure.
So that's a tough loss for Robeisy, who, remember, won 2 Olympic gold medals.
Yeah.
Forget that from Cuba. Also, we have a new game. Let's watch this.
My name's Liam Barry, and today we're going to see how many eggs I can take to the chest without hurting. All right, let's see it.
Oh, damn.
That should have been our OK Bet payoff right there.
He is jacked for an absolute moron
Yeah.
who probably is going to get a Darwin Award before as his method of dying.
Luke, I don't have elder abuse, but I do have some child abuse. You down?
I'm less high on that.
All right, let's see if you like these.
Oh no! A table!
Okay, let's go over to the boxing ring. I mean, this gentleman's house.
That's it, Gato. That's it. Good boys. Oh.
Okay. I mean, we try to be all ages. We try to welcome
Based on who their father is, I'm guessing that they weren't headed for mathematics PhDs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, it can be a dangerous sport. So can be taking a picture on a beautiful bench.
Get in that water. Get in that water. Get in that water. Yeah,
Only
take
that,
her with you.
That bench was a swing, Luke, and they didn't realize it somehow. There you go. Okay. A couple more for you. Let's head to church. You got to be careful. Watch your step. Next stop, hell, Luke. Wow, okay. Oh, boy. I don't know how to set this one up. Oh, running of the bulls. You got to be careful. You can get gored, Luke, okay? You could also lose your pants. You got to really watch out. Oh, we did have elder abuse. Sorry about that.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, boy. This asshole just getting gored.
It's not that I don't feel bad for these guys.
Oh, my God.
But it really turns ugly.
Oh, it's getting ugly now. I see full crack. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Take your pants off, bitch. You're going to be my prison bitch.
Oh, wow. Do you see that guy just assless there? Wow, that's great stuff. Okay, I got one more
Was that
for
Mike
you.
Tyson? Who was that? Remember he walked around? I love you, my son.
Yeah.
And then he turned around. It's like just a big old Mike Tyson ass.
Okay, I got one more for you.
Okay, who am I here with today?
Steve.
Steve, what would you say the best day of your life was?
Probably when I had my first child.
And what made that day so special?
Well, just being a parent. Come on, man.
All right, maybe I love them all. This was for me. Sorry, that's all the shit I have this week.
If you had ended that clip with him being shot,
yes, that would have been better for you.
I would have much preferred that.
All right, maybe the shit, you throw it at the wall, you see if it sticks, it slipped.
There was definitely some good ones.
There was some good ones.
The guy who fell into hell at church was a good one. I like that.
That's all the shit we got this week, but don't forget, morningkombat@gmail.com is your email address for Friday's show. Dead wrong, fan subs, you can email the show, let your voice be heard. Just don't send any stick pics to Mikey anymore.
Send him all of your butthole pics.
Thank you very much. That's the show for today. How would you grade the show? Like, it was decent?
Efficient? You did an efficient job, yeah.
Maycee Barber in the house?
Maycee Barber in the house. I did not want to get up at 4:30 this morning when I got up.
No, I got up at 4:22 and it was not fun. It was cold. It was so cold.
I was just not feeling it.
Yeah, but that's the commitment we give to this game because we
live and breathe this shit.
We love this shit. And this year's almost over. What a crazy, difficult, ridiculous year. But Nosita, would you agree? I mean, there's nowhere to go but from here but up. 25 is going to be a slam dunk. It's going to be the best year of our lives.
We going to the top, baby.
You hear that? You hear that?
Yeah, I don't believe that.
All right, that's the show. You can follow us and like us and subscribe to us, please, as well as our YouTube channels right over there. Thank you so much. Also, the Main Card Minute starring Luke Nosita and Gaff Pierre. It's a slamtastic event going on. Anything else you want to say? We'll be back Friday, of course, 11 a.m. Eastern time to set the stage. What's going on this weekend in combat sports? Anything?
Isn't it? When is Usyk Fury?
The 21st.
21st. Oh, I think this weekend is
Covington Buckley,
Tampa.
UFC
Tampa.
There's a couple fights on there that are good.
Fights, one that's halfway decent. Yep.
All right. Well, we'll be back to do some weird stuff on Friday. Then that's all I got for you this week. Okay, that's it.
That's it.
That's it. I'm done.
All right. May all of your gains be loyal.
Yeah.